Welcome to True Crime and Celebrity News. If live breaking news and court trials and following true crime your thing, please consider subscribing to my channel, and if you see what you like in my content, please consider giving the content a thumbs up.
Oh my God, I've been talking this whole time. Cindy, why didn't you say you couldn't hear me? Okay, let me start over. Hi, this is Ronnie from True Crime and Celebrity News. I gotta have a cigarette. After that, it is Friday or Sunday, November. I don't know what day it is. November 16th. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Man, I was just talking away over here. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Sorry I'm late. I was on video. I did have my video on. So this week's going to be kind of crazy because I have appointments Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday. But I want to do the Logan Kimpton case. It's out of Iowa. He's the third one to go to trial. The first guy was the one that got charged with the actual murder. Her name was Melanie Hoffman. And actually she came from the same place I raised Amy. And they found her out there in the Amanas. And so that starts tomorrow. My appointment with my primary is at 10:30. So I figure by the time I get back, I can turn it on, and that way I can work through the breaks and stuff. The only reason why I'm doing cases back to back is because this StreamYard is not cheap. It is not cheap. And I want to get every second that I can of StreamYard, because it was brought to my attention, why do you think you need to stream every day? And not from Son or anybody, but why do you think you need to stream every day? Take a break. Well, money don't come easy for me, and I don't get paid to do this. I'm not monetized at all. So I have to. I mean, I'm paying it's $17 a week. If I pay monthly, it's like $44. So imagine what I've spent the last month every week from the 44, because I didn't have the 44 right away. But I am gonna get the month one. So, and I enjoy streaming. I enjoy if I'm not doing this right now live on YouTube, I'm watching it myself on my TV. So I either sit here and watch it with somebody or watch it alone. And Son's really not into true crime. He don't understand it. So it's all right. It's cool. So, and then Tuesday I have, no, I don't have nothing Tuesday. It's Wednesday. I have to go see my endocrinologist. And then Thursday I have therapy. Monday I have therapy at 3:20. So, but anyways, we can go ahead and get started, because I think that's why we're here today. Oh yeah, I wanted to show you. So the lady upstairs, she's an islander. Son's an islander. They come from the same island. And the daughters are moving out. They were supposed to stay. They signed a year's lease, but they decided, I guess, they don't want to stay. They bought a house outside of Makokata here. But there were pans. Let me make myself bigger. There were pans. The pan was this big and like that deep. It's like a huge cake pan. And then there was another one that was just a little bit smaller. And then there was these. And she got these from Ross. This. And then there were two of these. So I thought this would be a really cute background when I can get a new desk. I have a desk. I bought a brand new desk, but the desk ain't big enough. It's too small. So I'm waiting to get another one. Yeah, they're really, yeah. Well, no, it's a little bit smaller than a roasting pan. It's not quite as deep. It's like a really big, gigantic cake. When I move all my stuff out to the kitchen, I'll show you the pan. But anyways, let's get this going. Half of that stuff I could have taken time for fair use and talked about it. Yes, they're really pretty. I like them. Yes, I was garbage hunting today. Dumpster diving. Okay, let's start it. I'm gonna finish my cigarette. Oh yeah, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And if you're on the replay crew, don't forget to like it. And if you don't like it, give it a thumbs down. It's all the same.
I think it's usually done. I can't think of any prejudice to capitalizing the name. It's not in any way.
I love to dumpster dive, but here in Iowa, it's illegal. I watched people out in Florida dumpster dive. Oh my God, I've seen them pick up phones out of the back of the AT&T and stuff from Five Below. And oh my God, I'm like, why can't I be that lucky? So yeah. It's not legal in Florida anymore?
I don't think I have any objection to it, Your Honor.
And I'm from the state.
All right, any objection to this instruction as it relates? So this is count one. This is with Jennifer Tower as the alleged victim.
No objection, Your Honor.
Okay.
All right, count two. It's the same exact instruction, except if you look at element 1 and 3, instead of Jennifer Tower, it now has Robbie Tower, which is consistent with the state's indictment that Robbie Tower is the victim, alleged victim in count 2. Any objection to this instruction?
No, Your Honor.
Next is 28.7. Again, I did already compare these to our Supreme Court version. I found no mistake in this either. Names are capitalized. The defendant's name is inserted. There's no victim name here. It has the definitions. It has
Do you want me to
three elements correctly outlined. Any objection to this by either side?
No, Your Honor. The only issue.
Do you want to hear this, or do you want me to fast forward through it? Y'all let me know.
Is there is a, I don't know if you want to take the
Okay.
brackets out of the vehicle definition.
I definitely think we should. I missed that. Yeah. The defendant is guilty of fleeing to elude law enforcement officer, parentheses, sirens and lights activated. So
Okay. No problem. It's hard to get it just right, you know? I think they'll be bringing him out.
all the jurors up. See.
Oh, I went too far. See? Are they going to get her? There we go.
All right, everybody may be seated. Welcome back, members of the jury. I hope you had a nice evening. The witness arrived, so we're ready to proceed. All right, State, please call your next witness.
State calls Charlene Webster.
All right, everybody stand right here, face the clerk, raise your right hand.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that
Okay.
you have to speak the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do.
Okay. Well, you will bring my name up there.
Morning. State, when you're ready, you may proceed.
Thank you.
Hello, Ms. Webster.
Hello.
Will you please tell us your full name and spell your last name?
Yes, my name is Charlene Webster. Last name is spelled Webster.
How are you employed, Ms. Webster?
I am a senior crime laboratory analyst with the Florida Department of Law Enforcement at the Tampa Bay Regional Operations Center in the biology section.
How long have you worked for the Florida Department of Law Enforcement?
Since December of 2009.
Will you tell the members of the jury about your formal education, please?
I have a Bachelor of Arts in Anthropology and a Bachelor of Science in Biochemistry from the University of Miami. I also hold a Master of Science in Pharmacy with a concentration in Forensic DNA and Serology from the University of Florida.
Thank you. Will you also tell us a little bit about the duties and responsibilities of a senior crime lab analyst?
Yes, as an analyst, I examine items of evidence for the presence of body fluids such as blood, semen, or saliva. I also examine them for any skin cells that may be present from items that may have been handled, touched, or worn. I will take samplings of those items of evidence to try to develop a DNA profile that I can then compare to the DNA profiles of known individuals that are believed to be involved in the case. I will put a statistical weight if I'm able to do that and produce a report.
What is DNA?
DNA stands for deoxyribonucleic acid. It is the genetic blueprint for life, and it makes us who we are. Your DNA profile is unique, except in the case of identical twins. You inherit half of your DNA from your biological mother and the other half from your biological father. Your DNA is found all throughout your body, so except for mature red blood cells, and your DNA doesn't change over your life. So the DNA I would find in your hair would be the same DNA I would expect to find in your blood.
What method of DNA analysis do you use up at the Florida Department of Law Enforcement's office in Tampa?
We use STR testing, which stands for short tandem repeats. And STRs are just small segments that are found throughout the DNA. The number of times those repeating segments are observed varies from individuals. And as I mentioned earlier, since you get half from your mother and half from your father, the number of repeats you get from each person would vary. That process is done in 4 steps. So what I'm going to try to do in the first step is I'm going to take that sample of the evidence and I'm going to place it in a tube. I'm going to add some liquid and some heat. And the purpose of that is just to try to break open those cells so they can release the DNA so I can see what's available to me. The second step is then now to make many copies of the 21 locations on the DNA strand and I'm actually looking at. And I'm trying to make those copies so that way I can get a better idea of the DNA profile. The third step is now, the second step I misspoke was determining how much DNA I actually have present. Once I open up those cells, how much DNA is available to me. The third step is making millions of copies of the 21 locations on the DNA strand that I'm looking at. And then the last step is just separating those copied DNA by size. So that way I end up with peaks on a graph, much like an EKG. And those peaks are your DNA profile for each of the 21 areas of the DNA I'm looking at.
That method that you just described, short tandem repeat, is that supported in the scientific community?
Yes, it is.
By published scientific literature?
Yes.
Okay. Now, your lab in Tampa, is it accredited?
Yes, we are.
With whom is it accredited?
We are accredited by ANAB, which is the American National Standards Institute National Accreditation Board.
And as an individual crime laboratory analyst, do you have some sort of continuing education or accreditation that you have to do personally?
Yes, I do have to do 16 hours of continuing education each calendar year. In addition, I do have to take what's called a proficiency test twice a year. A proficiency test is just a scenario-based test that's given to me from an outside agency. I know I'm being tested, but I don't know the results of the test. Once I receive the samples, I will take the samples from start to finish, just as I would any other case working sample using our standard operating procedures. Once I get my results, I submit it to the testing agency, who then ensures that my results are consistent with theirs, and they will report that back to ANAB, our accrediting body, and to FDLE as well.
When was the last proficiency test that you undertook?
Earlier this year, and I passed it.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. How do you talked about your protocols. How do you ensure that the results that you achieve in your laboratory are correct? How do you know that you're getting the correct results? What steps do you take?
We have controls that are run with all of our samples. So as I mentioned earlier, as a part of that STR process, that I took a sample of the item of evidence to do through the 4 steps. Well, I'm also going to do that with what's called a reagent blank. So it's just an empty tube, and everything that happens to my sample happens to that tube through all 4 steps of the STR process. That's called a negative control, and that just ensures that no outside DNA is being introduced into the samples. In addition, there's also a positive control that's run through the samples to just ensure that all of the reagents are performing and the instruments are performing the way that they should and producing the expected results that is received from that positive control.
Right. As an analyst, do you maintain neutrality when you are working with items that have been submitted to you by various agencies and throughout the testing process?
Cindy, why don't you tell me
Why
to
is it
speed it
important
up?
for you to maintain
I'm over
a
here,
neutral
it's like,
attitude
oh God, I
about
might
the
need a
evidence that
chicken
comes
nap.
into you for testing?
When I receive the evidence, I don't know what to expect as a result, so I'm just going to conduct my testing as I would with every other item that's similar. I'm going to send it through the same process,
Sorry,
of course, not
Cindy,
to be
it's not
biased in
your
any way,
fault.
just to
I
perform
shouldn't
it
have
and
to
to try to get
say that. I
any
should
DNA
say
profiles
that.
that may be
I'm
usable in the
sorry.
case.
Thank you. Now, you mentioned a little bit earlier about statistical analysis is used as part of the procedure for ultimate DNA analysis. Do you have specialized training in statistics?
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about the training that you've received in statistics?
So I took statistics as a part of my master's class, in addition to during the training program at FDLE. We are trained on the statistics that we perform, which is currently likelihood ratio. In addition to the training that I received from FDLE, the members of the program that we use also did a 2-week statistical training class on the system. And so I did get that training as well.
Does the Florida Department of Law Enforcement use a particular database as part of your statistical analysis?
Yes, we do.
Can you explain a little bit about that database, please?
The database we use is developed from, the National Institutes of Standard and Technology. That database was published in the Forensic Science International Journal of Forensics in 2013. And basically that database contains DNA profiles from random people who were samples that were purchased, and the DNA types that were observed there are just telling me how common or how rare a particular allele or DNA type may be observed in the general population across 3 ethnicities. The ethnicities we look at are Caucasian, Hispanic, and African American, as those are the 3 common ethnicities found in the state of Florida.
Okay. Why do you use a numerical weight or a statistical weight as part of the DNA analysis?
We add a statistical weight to a sample that is a match, which means that I compared a single source or profile from one individual to a known individual, or an inclusion where I'm comparing an individual to what's called a mixture, where that's from two or more individuals. It gives a statistical weight as to how common or how rare, given the DNA evidence, how likely it is to see that DNA evidence
sorry.
Excuse me. How likely it is to see that
Okay.
that DNA evidence given the profile that is observed sorry. Let me rephrase that. The statistical weight gives I'm looking at a DNA profile and I'm comparing a known individual to the profile, either to a single source or a mixture. It just gives weight as to how common or how rare that DNA profile may be observed. Sorry.
Okay. Essentially, does that allow you to put into perspective the results as to how much of that person's DNA is in that particular sample?
It's actually just saying it's comparing two different scenarios and giving a weight. It's comparing how likely that DNA profile could be from the person of interest or an unknown individual. So it's not telling me that that person is actually in the profile. It's just telling me what is the likelihood that the evidence could be from the person of interest versus an unknown individual.
All right, thank you. Now, have you ever testified in court with regard to DNA analysis?
Yes.
How many times, approximately, Ms. Webster?
Probably about 50-ish.
Okay. And can you give us an idea of where in the state of Florida you've given testimony on DNA?
I've gone as high as Tallahassee, and I've gone as further south as Fort Myers, where we have our different regions. So any of the courthouses in between there, I've probably touched on a few of them.
All right, great. Now, I want to ask you about how, as an FDLE analyst, how do you determine or examine an item of evidence to know if there is blood on that item? Can you explain that process to us?
Yes, if I'm examining an item of evidence, I'm going to look at it to see if it has red-brown staining that may be possibly present, as that's somewhat characteristics of what a blood stain would look like. If I observe red-brown staining on the item, I'm going to perform what's called a presumptive test, which is just a chemical change test that tells me whether or not blood is probably present, but it possibly isn't. I cannot confirm that it is blood, but I can say that blood is possibly present. That color change test takes a clear liquid, and it turns pink if blood is possibly present.
Okay. Did you receive known samples in this particular case of the defendant Dima Tower and also Jennifer and Robbie Tower?
Yes, I did.
In what forms did you receive those known samples, Ms. Webster?
I received a buccal swab from Dima Tower, and I received a blood stain card from Robbie Tower and a blood stain card from Jennifer Tower.
Okay. Now, as to the buccal swab from Dima Tower, did you obtain a complete DNA profile for Dima Tower?
Yes, I did.
And as to the blood stain cards, did you obtain complete DNA profiles for both Jennifer Tower and Robbie Tower?
Yes, I did.
Okay. So did you also receive items of evidence, or did your lab receive items of evidence from the Northport Police Department?
Yes, we did.
Can you please tell the members of the jury, and without going through the entire list, if you could just tell us about items 6.1 and 7.8?
May I refer to my notes?
You may, if it would help to refresh your recollection.
You know, I like hearing about DNA and stuff, but man, they got to make it a little more exciting. This one just ain't quite exciting. Like, I really get into the DNA parts, but they aren't really showing much. No visuals. I like visuals. Actually, I'm just doing this because I know I have to do commentary. So, but I'm thinking about moving everything into the kitchen so I can keep an eye on my soup. I need to boil it down a little bit so I can add some more liquid to it after it's gotten some of the oil out of, evaporated out. Yeah. So, and I know Leah needs to go out. She's sitting right behind me and I can feel her breathing down my neck. All right. Well, I know this case shouldn't take long today because I know he testifies. I just don't know when at this point. Okay, there's another guy. Oh, he's testified way at the very end. So I'm not quite sure who the other two, because I was going to go write down the names, but two of the, bacon. Who says bacon? Bacon strips. The witnesses weren't right on Court TV's website. Two of the witnesses weren't even on their list. So I'm just going to go by what they are when they come up. If I can catch their name, then I'll put it on there. But I'm going to start working on I can't really do anything about the Logan one because you have to get into the day unless there's a witness list somewhere. But usually I can't find them. So, all right, here we go.
Item 6.1 is described as a DNA sample that was taken from the knife blade.
Okay, and 6.1, was that derived from a kitchen knife?
Yes.
Thank you. And then as to item 7.8, can you tell us what that item of evidence is?
Item 7.8 is described as a DNA sample from knife 6's handle.
Okay, thank you. All right. So speaking specifically of those two items, 6.1, the knife blade, and 7.8, the knife handle, and those are from two distinct knives.
That's correct.
Thank you. Okay. Did FDLE test those items?
Yes, we did.
Okay. Can you please explain the initial results of that test?
Item 6 is the kitchen knife did give chemical indications for the presence of blood. That means I did that presumptive color change test that I described earlier, and there was a color change for pink. So the results that it gave chemical indications for blood.
All right. And what about 7.8? Just as to the blood viscerology.
That's right. Yes. So there was, I also did obtain, there was chemical indications for the presence of blood on item 7.8 as well.
Thank you. Now let's go back to 6.1. Once you found the chemical indications for the presence of blood on that knife blade, what was the next step in the analysis?
After that, I would have taken, there was a sampling taken of the knife handle and the blade, and then the samples would have been placed in the tube that I described earlier and taken through that 4-step process as I described it in order to try to develop a DNA profile for each of those items.
Okay. And what were the DNA results that you obtained from the knife blade, item 6.1?
So for item 6.1, the knife blade, the DNA results obtained demonstrated the presence of a mixture consistent with 2 donors, including at least 1 male contributor.
Okay. And were you able to determine of any of those donors in that particular item, 6.1, the knife blade?
I was able to include Dima Tower as a possible contributor to the mixed DNA profile. The observed mixed DNA profile is approximately 61,000 times more likely to occur if the sample originated from Dima Tower and 1 unrelated individual than if it originated from 2 unrelated individuals.
Were you also given an indication of one of the other donors in that mixture?
I was able to include Robbie Tower as a possible contributor to the mixed DNA profile. The observed mixed DNA profile is greater than 700 billion times more likely to occur if the sample originated from Robbie Tower and 1 unrelated individual than from 2 unrelated individuals.
Okay, so if we can break that down just into layperson's language, can you just simplify that for the members of the jury?
As I mentioned in the statistic, I just giving away, the type of statistic I'm giving you is called a likelihood ratio, and it's comparing 2 opposing hypotheses. So it's comparing whether or not the person of interest could be given a DNA profile, the person of interest could be the donor of the profile versus if an unknown individual could be the donor of the evidence profile observed. In this case, I'm giving weight to whether or not for the evidence, if Dima Tower is included, the likelihood for the DNA profile is approximately 67,000 times more likely to occur if it originated from him versus an unrelated individual. I'm giving weight more to each of those scenarios, and it's on a sliding scale. So if a likelihood ratio of 1 just means that it's neutral. It doesn't give weight to either one of those scenarios. As you get higher above 1, the number 1, it gives weight more to my first scenario of the person of interest being the possible donor of that DNA profile. As it gets lower from 1, it's stating that it's supporting more of that second hypothesis, or that an unknown individual is the one that donated that DNA profile.
Thank you. Now let's move on to the knife handle from 7.8, the other knife, the second knife. Can you please tell us about the results after you did your analysis, Ms. Lister?
The DNA results for item 7.8 demonstrated the presence of a mixture of at least 2 donors, including at least 1 male contributor. A complete DNA profile for the major contributor could be determined and is suitable for comparisons. Due to the limited nature of the DNA results for the additional contributors to the mixture, that data wasn't interpretable. So I'm only making comparisons to the major DNA profile. This major DNA profile matched the DNA profile from Robbie Tower. The observed major DNA profile is greater than 700 billion times more likely to occur if the sample originated from Robbie Tower than from an unrelated individual.
Thank you. Now, I just want to ask you a question regarding this particular evidence. So these knives were in a kitchen, and presumably they were used by all the members of the family at any given time. The family members being Robbie Tower, Jennifer Tower, and Dima Tower. So what distinguishes the DNA that you found on these two knives? What's the distinction? Is it because you found chemical indications for the presence of blood as opposed to touch DNA?
Objection leading? Yeah, let's try not to be
All
so
right.
leading in your question.
Thank you.
If
So-
you understand the question as a general concept, can you explain touch DNA versus blood DNA? Okay, I think that's the question.
Please.
Yes. So if blood DNA from blood, blood is as a body fluid in general would produce more DNA or leave more DNA behind than just touching an item. However, I can't say in this case as to which one those came from, as the knives may have been handled as stated by everyone throughout the family. I can't state whether or not the DNA is exclusively from blood or from epithelial cells.
Thank you. But based upon your analysis, were there chemical indications for the presence of blood on both knives?
Yes, there was.
Thank you. May I have a moment, please?
Ma'am?
Thank you very much. I don't have anything else.
Mr. Gilman, when you're ready.
Good morning, ma'am. How are you?
Good morning, and well yourself.
All right. So when you're examining these items of evidence, you examine essentially what's submitted, right?
Correct.
You don't go to the individual law enforcement headquarters and pick and choose what they give to you.
That is correct.
All right. So if they give you, for example, an actual physical knife, you would go through and do all of the swabbing yourself, correct?
Correct.
If they don't give you the physical knife, they just give you whatever the swabs are, you test from the swabs, correct?
Correct.
So you're entirely at the discretion of what is submitted to you as far as what gets tested.
Correct.
All right. And that system is automated, correct?
What do you mean by automated?
I mean, you don't go in and with like a pair of tweezers and pull out DNA, right?
No, I don't use a tweezer to go in. I do the process that we described.
Right. It's automated through machinery, right?
Yes, there are some hands-on portions, but yes, there are some machinery that helps with that.
And the peaks and valleys are essentially computer generated results, correct?
Correct.
All right. The statistical analysis that you do has changed since you started in 2009, hasn't it?
Yes, it has.
Okay. And it used to be that you would give numbers like 1 in 15 and make like sounding like really horrible made up numbers for a statistical analysis, correct? And you'd have to count the number of zeros to describe the number.
Yes, we still do that. They're still big numbers now.
Okay. But it sounds to me like you said that the 2 times that you discovered Robbie Tower's DNA, that statistical likelihood was 700 billion times more likely, correct?
I stated that it's greater than 700 billion times more likely.
Okay. And then for the one instance where you indicated that you found Dima Tower in a mixture, it was 67,000, correct?
Approximately 61,000.
Okay. I think you said both 61 and 67, so it's 61?
It's 61,000.
Okay. And that's obviously closer to zero than 700 billion, right?
Yes.
Okay. And again, we're talking about a mixture, correct?
Yes, for
All
both
right.
samples.
And using the statistical analysis the way that you do, if you were to use a separate database than the one that you use, would you expect similar or different results?
Objection calls for speculation.
Would you be speculating, or do you know the answer to that?
I generally know the answer to that.
Right. I'll overrule the objection. You can answer it.
It would be slightly different, but I wouldn't expect there to be more than a 10-fold difference.
Right. So back when you're talking about the big huge numbers, if we're talking 700 billion, the 10-fold difference would be 70 billion, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Nothing for the judge.
State any redirect of the witness.
Did you find blood on those 2 knives?
Yes, I did find the indications for blood, yes.
Okay. And in addition, did you also find DNA from Robbie Tower and Dima Tower?
I was able to include Robbie Tower and Dima Tower on item 6.1.
And is that the bottom line of your report? In the most simplistic reductionist terms, is that the bottom line of your report?
Those are the results of my reporting, yes.
Thank you very much.
Is the witness free to step down?
Yes.
No objection.
All right, you may step down now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Folks, as you recall, when we talked about scheduling, this is the witness this morning. The next witness is not available till 1 o'clock. So let's see, it's 11:51. Is an hour enough for you folks for lunch? I see the jurors say that's fine. Does that work for the parties?
It does, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
Let's start back up
Sergeant Vega is 115. Let's make it 115. Sorry.
at 1:15, okay? We'll see everybody at 1:15, okay? Please leave your notepads turned over, face down, writing implements on top. Have a nice lunch. Remember, do not discuss anything with each other, and don't observe, read. Everybody stand, juror executive. I think the state you're going to rest after Dr. Vega. So at that point, we need to know whether Ms. Howard is fired. Okay. Have a good lunch.
I'm here. So I guess they're going to lunch. Oh, wonderful. Good thing we didn't watch it live. That would have been terrible for me. Zoom, 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 zoom. Oh, gosh. Thought I took it far enough. Oh, there we go. There we go.
Do we have all the jurors up? Okay. State, do you have your witness here?
Yes.
All right. Is the state ready to proceed?
It is.
Defense ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Let's bring the jurors in.
Oh, I thought they brought the jurors in already. Oh, my goodness, people. You're all confusing me. This way I can get his name. It should be Dr. Russell, the medical examiner. Vega? Russell Vega?
All right, everybody may be seated. Welcome back, members of the jury. All right, state, please call your next witness.
State calls Dr. Russell Vega.
I was right.
Stand right here, face the clerk, raise your right hand.
Swear to affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, I do.
Okay, so come right here. Raise your right hand.
You ready, state?
Yes.
Sure, Your Honor.
Good afternoon, doctor.
Good afternoon.
Will you please tell us your full name and spell your last name?
My full name is Russell Scott Vega. The last name is spelled Vega.
Dr. Vega, what is your profession?
I'm a forensic pathologist or medical examiner.
Right. And what are the duties of a medical examiner?
The medical examiner's job is to investigate certain deaths. Those deaths are specified in statute or state law. And more or less, the deaths that the medical examiner is supposed to investigate are non-natural deaths, violent deaths, deaths that occur as a result of anything other than natural disease.
All right. And what is your jurisdiction as a medical examiner?
As the district medical examiner for this current district of District 12, my jurisdiction includes DeSoto and Manatee counties, as well as Sarasota County.
Will you tell the jury a little bit about your formal education, please?
Certainly. I got my undergraduate degree at Florida State University. I majored in physics and biochemistry at FSU. After graduating there, I went to medical school at the University of South Florida in Tampa. Following medical school, I did 2 years of training in general surgery and then 4 years of training in anatomic and clinical pathology. And pathology is the subspecialty of medicine that deals with diagnosing diseases by looking at fluids, different laboratory tests, biopsies, organs removed at surgery, and by doing autopsies. And after all of that, I did a 1-year fellowship or subspecialty year in forensic pathology, and that's the branch of pathology which specializes in autopsy and in death investigations.
What is an autopsy?
An autopsy is an examination that is performed on somebody who's died, and that exam can be performed for different reasons, but generally it's to identify any diseases, complications, anatomic abnormalities, injuries, or other things which might be of interest to either doctors who order that, or in our realm for medical examiner autopsies to figure out what the cause and the manner of death are.
All right, thank you. So I want to take you back to September 3rd of 2023, Doctor.
Yes.
Did you go to the death scene in this case?
Yes, I did.
Can you tell the members of the jury what are the advantages or the reasons for a medical examiner such as you to go to the death scene itself?
By examining the scene of a death where the body is still there is certain information which can be gathered, which can be helpful in the coming process of doing the autopsy at some later point, or to gather information which might be useful for law enforcement or other agencies at that point in their investigation. Some of the things that are of value in that scene investigation then are the ability to try to put together the circumstances that led up to the death, the evaluation of where the actual injuries that led to death occurred and whether or not they occurred elsewhere or at the site where the body was, and to get an idea of what the nature of the injuries or potential injuries, before we get out there, perhaps we don't know, but the nature of the injuries that led to the person's death. Finally, we might get information that leads us to a rough estimate of how long a person has been deceased and at that site.
Okay, and that is a rough estimate, isn't it, Doctor?
Very rough, yes.
Okay, because on TV shows, you always have a detective saying, how long has this person been dead? And the doctor says 2 hours and 27 minutes. Is that possible?
It is possible with certain elements, such as some kind of device which is tracing an individual's vital signs at the time, or even better, a surveillance video or something of that nature. But just based on the autopsy findings, it can almost never be that precise.
Okay, thank you. So after you went to the death scene and did that examination that you talked about, looking at the circumstances surrounding it, the nature of the wounds, et cetera, did there come a time when the bodies of Robbie and Jennifer Tower were transported to the morgue?
Yes.
And did you perform an autopsy on both Mr. and Mrs. Tower, Robbie and Jennifer Tower?
Yes, I performed autopsies on each of them.
When did those autopsies take place?
So the autopsies were performed on September 3rd of 2023.
Okay. Doctor, I'm showing you have been marked for identification as States Exhibit 34A through 34K, and that includes double G, so 34G and 34 double G. Take a look at those for me, please.
Certainly. I've reviewed them.
You recognize these photos, Doctor, as the photographs that were taken at the time you autopsied the body of Robbie Tower?
They are, yes.
Are they a true and accurate depiction of the procedure of the autopsy that you conducted?
They are.
Runner offering States Exhibit 34A, 34B, 34C, 34D, 34E, F, G, 34 double G, 34H, 34I, 34J, and 34K.
Is that too
Any
fast?
objection to 34A through K and double G?
No objection.
All right, they'll be admitted. You may publish them at your leisure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is it routine practice, Doctor, to take photographs during the course of the autopsy?
It is.
Why?
Photographs are the best form of documentation that we have, especially for external findings on the body. I can make notes, I can make verbal descriptions of findings, but nothing conveys the nature of many findings, especially injuries on the body, like a photograph does.
Let's look first at States Exhibit 34A, and we're going to talk about some of the markings that you have as part of the autopsy procedure, specifically the letters that we find on Mr. Tower's body.
Yes.
So we're going to go first, even though this is not in chronological or numerical order on your autopsy report, but we're going to go first to the stab wounds on Robbie Tower's face, please.
Yes.
And by the way, were you able to document how many stab wounds were inflicted on Mr. Tower?
I was, although the determination is it may not be exactly what somebody else would have determined with the same findings, because there's such a variation in terms of how deep or how severe or superficial the injuries are, that some of them I didn't classify necessarily as a counted stab wound or cut wound, but I did note the other injuries in my report. So in total, for Mr. Tower, I counted 68 stab or cutting type wounds, with more that were small or superficial or subtle wounds that were probably sustained in the same way, but not totally characteristic stab or cut wounds.
But at least 68 distinctive stab wounds that you could identify as such.
Yes.
Thank you. So let's look now at State Exhibit 34A, and I'd like to talk about the wounds that you cataloged on the face of Mr. Tower. So let's talk about those, if you would, please.
Certainly.
So we can start anywhere you like, Doctor. If you want to start on the upper right cheek, or upper left cheek, pardon me.
Certainly. So the injuries that we see on the face here are this largest wound, which was labeled with the letter H, the much smaller and very superficial wound labeled T here, and then the wound on the chin labeled I. And I think it's maybe important to notice that, or to note that when I was assigning these letters, to some extent, it was largely a random application. I did it based on the letters I had at the time and what I was examining at the time, and it doesn't have any correlation to timing or anything else with the injuries. So of these, H is the most visible on the skin, obviously. I believe, is two separate wounds, which are just joined. In other words, they were very close together and seem to form one single wound. Of these wounds, none of them cause any major injury. The injuries really just involve soft tissue only.
And in addition to these that we can see in 34A, I want to move to 34B. And take a look at the wound that you called S, which is also included as a stab wound in the face.
Yes.
Can you please tell us a little bit about this wound?
This wound is a wound which involves the back edge of the ear. So this is the left ear. So that in this photo, the nose would have been oriented here, and the back of the head here, the neck over here. And this wound essentially cut through all of the tissue over the back edge of the ear, essentially at the same level as the ear canal here.
Right, next, let's look at 34C, please. Now we're going to move on to your recitation of the stab wounds of the back, and the back of the neck, I should say. So let's look at this photograph, 34C, and there's quite an extensive number of lacerations here. So would you please just start wherever you like and talk about them?
So all of these injuries are relatively similar, meaning they're all injuries that are inflicted with a sharp instrument like a knife. There are some which are longer on the skin than others, or that are wider. I would not take that to mean that they were inflicted with a different instrument. They might all have been inflicted with the same instrument. It depends on what's done with that knife once it's in the skin. It's very easy to flex a little bit along the skin with the blade and cause the stab wound to be longer on the skin. And also the tension on the skin is what determines how wide the injury appears here. So even though these injuries on the back of the neck and the upper back have varying appearances, they all were potentially really sustained in the same way with a stab with a knife. Of these injuries, the vast majority of all of these, that includes the clusters of injuries on the back of the neck, the very upper back here, and lower in the back, that for the most part, these injuries involved only soft tissue and did not penetrate to any deeper major blood vessels or organs.
So would a person have been able to survive if they had only sustained these injuries, and even the ones on the face?
Potentially, yes. Long-term complications, of course, could ensue, but in the short term, yes.
So I would also like to go to 34D, because that's hard to see in this photograph. And there's
This here?
No, I'm sorry, my 34D.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes.
I'm sorry, Doctor. Photograph 34D, because there's a stab wound on the neck end, which I'd like you to talk about, and I wasn't able to find a photograph that included that on the larger 34C. So can you tell us a little bit about the end?
Yes, although it will help if I refer to my records here. And
Yes.
yeah, and
It appears to be a cluster of a number of wounds that you just cataloged as ends.
yes. So this cluster is involving the left side of the neck. What I described in my report is it's posterolateral, meaning it's the side of the neck and toward the back, so that the back left side of the neck. And there are several stab wounds that you see here. I counted this as 5, but some of the stab wounds I think that you can see on the edges of this photo were included in another grouping.
Let's go now to, I'm going to backtrack a little bit and go to a wound on the scalp. We're going to look at State Exhibit 34E. And that's going to be the first one that you talked about in your report.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about this.
For orientation, this is the top of the scalp. So this is the very edge of the left ear that you're seeing here. The right ear would be more or less over here in this photograph if it were extended. And this is a short stab wound, essentially right to the top of the head. It is. Of all the injuries that we've discussed so far, none of them, with the possible exception of one, really caused any significant deeper injury. It's all soft tissue injury.
Let's move next to State Exhibit 34F. And now we're going to talk about the left side of the neck.
Yes.
And the injuries that were inflicted to Mr. Tower. It looks like there's a lot of clusters there. Can you just go through that for the members of the jury, please?
Yes. And I would point out that we've already looked at in closer detail at this cluster here and at the injury to the left ear here. What we really haven't seen before is this cluster over the left upper neck and cheek area, that's labeled J, and then these other clusters which are at the base of the neck and over the top of the shoulder region here that are M, L, R, K, and G.
Now I'm going to I'm going to jump ahead a little bit, and I'm going to go to the larynx because that's how you discussed it in your report. So let's look now at States 34G. And first of all, will you tell the members of the jury, might be oversimplifying, you probably know this already, but where is the larynx located?
So the larynx is the medical word for the voice box. The front part of the larynx is what you feel in your neck, is the Adam's apple. What we see in this photograph is the larynx removed from the neck. And for orientation, this is the base of the tongue here. So this is the front of the specimen. This is the back of the specimen. This is the larynx structure itself, and the larynx has a cartilaginous backing to it that can be pretty hard. I opened that so that I could look at the internal surface of the larynx. This is the epiglottis, and that's the flap which closes over your airway when you're swallowing or eating. This is your vocal cord here and here. This structure is called the false vocal fold. Looks like a vocal cord, but it's not. The rest of what we see is injury. There's some bruising here and a cut here in this tissue to the side of the larynx. And then there are large cuts here, there, and here. There's also one there that you can see a little bit of bruising from on the other side here, which these cuts go through the full thickness of the tissue. And these were cuts which were the endpoints of stab wounds which originated on the neck. Some of those we've seen, those were the stab wounds of the left side of the neck, mostly in that J cluster. And then on the right side, probably at least one was from some wounds on the right side of the neck that we have not looked at yet.
How many separate perforations were you able to see in this in Mr. Tower's larynx?
I found 6.
Now, I also see some, what is that white, is that use that a trajectory rod? Is that white thin object that we see? Yeah, what is that?
This is really, it's just a small wooden stick that I improvised to use to hold this open because there's a lot of tension here. And if I don't have something holding it open, it'll close and you won't be able to see the structures here as well. So I just use this essentially to prop it open so I can photograph the findings.
And those other instruments also to keep it open?
Yes, these are what we call forceps. They're like tweezers.
Let's look at another picture of the larynx, please. Maybe might be helpful. This is 34 double G. And can you just orient us? Is there anything on this photograph that helps the jury to see those 6 separate perforations of the larynx?
Well, the perforations here to the side, I think you can get a better feel for the extent of this. This is, I'm encircling the opening here on the left side of the larynx. You can see that one perhaps a little more clearly too, and then you can better appreciate the bruising you see in the tissue adjacent to that here in the soft tissue or mucosa, which forms the wall of the larynx on both the left side and the right side here too, to some extent.
What happens to somebody's larynx or voice box when they sustain this kind of injury?
It would certainly impede your ability to vocalize or speak. Because the larynx isn't transected, it's hard to know exactly what that effect would be. It's possible that one still could have been able to vocalize or speak some, but it's also possible that might have been greatly impaired.
I'd like to go to State Exhibit 34H now, and we're going to look at some more injuries to Mr. Tower's face and his head. So can you please tell us about T?
Yes, T is a single stab wound. I want to make sure that I separate that out for you.
That's found under your
yes.
on page.
So T does, even though it's not particularly long, it does potentially go deep to the level of where the carotid artery was. And unfortunately, because there's a lot of injuries which are coalescent under the skin, it didn't allow me necessarily to be able to correlate a single individual internal injury with the stab wound on the outside that caused it, because they commingled as the stab wounds went into the tissue. But it's possible that T caused an injury to the carotid artery, which is deep there.
So are you telling us that you don't know if T was the entrance point to injure the carotid artery, or that you're not sure if the carotid artery is actually injured?
The carotid artery was injured. I just wasn't sure which stab wound caused it.
Thank you.
Yes.
And then let's look at O. That's on Mr. Tower's temple or above ear.
Yes. So O is not a deep injury, and normally I wouldn't necessarily have categorized that as one of the injuries that I would count and put a separate letter to. But in this case, I chose to do that to accentuate this particular finding. This is a scrape on the skin. what we call an abrasion. And the reason that I included this is it's a patterned abrasion. The pattern consists of multiple parallel lines that are perpendicular to the single line here and extending downward from that. You see 3 or 4 of them there pretty clearly. I believe this is the same thing here, but they're blending together in this broader area of scraping here. This injury was probably sustained as a single impact or brush with a knife or possibly some other implement. Maybe this was from 2 impacts, one causing this and the other causing this with the scraping, almost looking like the teeth of a comb there.
Right, thank you. I know that there were numerous stab wounds to Mr. Tower's right and left shoulders, but I want to move on to stab wounds of the chest, please. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to 34A. So we can look at those again. Right, so we use this photograph 34A to talk about the wounds on Mr. Tower's face. Now I'd like to see if we can't focus on his chest, of which there are 4 wounds. So let's talk about those 4 perforations, please.
Certainly. The 4 I think you're referring to are the labeled injuries of F, C, B, and A. There are a few smaller superficial injuries that are really scratches, essentially, up here, at the top left of his chest, and then down here on the upper part of the right side of his abdomen. Those are the kind of injuries I was talking about before that I didn't necessarily number, but were additional injuries that he had sustained. With regard to the 4 numbered ones, though, A is the largest of these and perhaps thus draws your attention most immediately. These are all shorter on the skin. All of these penetrated some distance into the soft tissue. None of these injuries really caused, or these stab wounds caused any deeper injury, only soft tissue injury, with the possible exception of B, which probably nicked the internal mammary artery. It's a small artery which runs inside, well, on the underside of the sternum. And based on the way that the dissection is done, I thought that B had nicked that artery, but it was just hard to tell. It would have been a small injury. Over time, it could have caused some significant bleeding, but not one that I would have expected to immediately cause death.
So again, with these 4, if medical assistance had been forthcoming, they would not have been fatal.
That's correct.
I'd also like to look at stab wounds at the back. Can you have those cataloged on page 9 of your report? And
Okay, sorry, y'all. I have
I'm
to
going to
move
revisit
everything out to the kitchen.
34C.
I'm tired of sitting in my bed.
So let's talk about those wounds to Mr. Tower's back, please. His upper back.
Yes. So the injuries to his back, especially if you mean by upper back, all these that you can see in the letters. Yes. Again, these are injuries which are of different sizes and shapes, but all, in my opinion, sustained in the same way with a stab wound by an instrument like a knife. Of these, I have small clusters such as DD, and then I have individual injuries like FF, BB, EE, and GG, and small cluster here of HH. Of all of these injuries, there was only one which was in the cluster of DD, which caused more than just soft tissue injury. And one of those in DD appears to have caused a small injury in the spinal cord by passing deep enough to go past the spine, the bones around the spinal cord, and to nick the spinal cord there.
I'm going to go to 34I to continue with the injuries to the back. So this encompasses the injuries that we just saw and a few more that are down on Mr. Tower's left side, sort of his shoulder there, his left shoulder, and also on his left arm.
Yes.
So can you just briefly go through those?
Yes. So this is an injury to the back of his left shoulder, an injury to his lower left chest on the side, and an injury to.
All right, I don't know if they're going to show any pictures, but this is the warning. We're all adults. This is a true crime channel. So I don't think I should have to give a warning. I mean, you're here for a reason. So, but I don't know if they're going to show any pictures or what they're going to talk about. So if it's triggering, please go out and come back in a few minutes or whatever. It can be hard for me sometimes. That's why I kind of forgot I was here. I was putting my dishes away. I'm putting some antibacterial stuff on my owie. Oh, I can't wait to go to the doctor tomorrow. Figure this out. It hurts. All right. I made some coffee. So that should be done here in a minute, and I should be nice and ready to go. Wild. Yes. Yes, we're all grown-ups. Protect your peace. Protect your own. Well, Sheila's been offline for 17 hours, so I'm assuming no puppies. I told her, I said, be careful. She'll have that puppy right next to your head. It's happened to me. It happened to me a couple times. I used to breed Yorkies, and my sister bred Pomeranians, so I've been through it a lot. So I was just kind of giving her some advice. I said, she's like, well, we got this big kennel. I said, yeah, but you probably want to get a pool. Or she'll try to move them if she doesn't feel secure, like in a small area. But she needs to be able to go up and down because she has to push the babies down herself. Oh, no. I'm good. I said, you can call me in the morning, like at 2 or 3 in the morning. I said, but you're the doula. The doula. That's why I never had any more kids. Man, I'll tell you what, that hurts. I had an all-natural birth. I did all my everything from home from Saturday to Monday, but then my blood pressure was really, really high. So the only thing I got was this stuff that they use to lower your blood pressure. I'm not the doggy doula either. And so I was in labor from Saturday till Wednesday at 5 p.m. December 31st, 2002. I did it all on my own. Yeah, the magnesium stuff. So that was the only thing I had. I had no medicine, no epidurals, because I couldn't have an epidural because of my back surgeries. So that was kind of rough, kind of hard, but I did it. I pushed for 2 hours. All right, here we go.
His left forearm. Of these, this is again the most visually noticeable of the injuries, and I would call this more of a slashing kind of injury. It was not extremely deep, but does have a broad length on the skin. This involved only soft tissue without any other major injury, as did this injury I. The stab wound K went a little more deeply and did have a little penetration into the lung cavity, which is right below there, and it put a small stab wound into the lower lobe of the left lung. It was a small penetration, and there was very little bleeding, and there was really no collapse of the left lung on that side. So I think over time, that could have been a potentially serious injury, but I believe that Mr. Tower died before it had a chance to manifest it being more serious, and it really didn't cause him any particular impairment during the time of his life following the first infliction of injuries till the time he passed.
Now, there are also numerous injuries on the upper and lower, especially the upper extremities, the arms, left and right arms, and also some to the legs, both the right and left leg. But I want to talk to you about defensive wounds, if any. Did you see any sign of it?
He did have injuries to his hands, which can be considered or might be described by some people as defensive wounds.
For J, can I have another one? That's just a little close-up of for J, 34K. When you look at those, can you tell if those are defensive wounds?
What I can tell you is that this particular injury is consistent with a knife blade coming across the finger like this, and it's characteristic of the kind of injury one would sustain while trying to grab a knife.
Now, you told us that, based upon your count, it appeared that Mr. Tower sustained approximately 68, give or take 68 wounds. Can you tell us what was the specific cause of Mr. Tower's death?
Yes. Despite the vast number or the high number of those stab wounds, the stab wounds that really were significant were the ones in the neck that ended up injuring a couple of different large vessels. The carotid artery we've already talked about is one. Another artery was a subclavian artery, which is the artery that goes from the aorta over to the shoulders. It goes to the base of the neck. Of course, there were many other smaller vessels which were cut as a result of all of these stabs. It was the bleeding from all of those injuries, especially the carotid and subclavian arteries, but all of those injuries which were his cause of death.
And do you have an opinion as to the manner of Mr. Tower's death?
Yes. In my opinion, the manner of death was and remains homicide.
We'll move on now to Mr. Tower. Dr. Vega, I'm showing you we have the marked for identification as State's Exhibit 33A through 33Q. Do you recognize these photographs as having been taken during autopsy of Jennifer Tower?
I do.
Are they a true and accurate depiction of Jennifer Tower at the time of her autopsy in September 2023?
Yes.
Your Honor, offering State's Exhibit 33A through 33Q. Huge evidence.
No objection. 33A through Q will be admitted. You may publish them in English.
As to Jennifer Tower, Dr. Vega, were you able to count the number of penetrating stab wounds and superficial wounds that were inflicted?
Yes. As with Mr. Tower, there were some small injuries that I did not include in that count, but the injuries that I did categorize that way totaled 79.
I'm here.
I would like to look, are the stab wounds to Ms.
I'm
Tower's
just getting
face?
my
And we're going to be
coffee.
reviewing State's Exhibit 33A. If you would just start wherever you like, Doctor, and just describe to the members of the jury what your findings were.
Well, as you described, this is a photograph of the left side of Ms. Tower's face, and here we have fairly distinct single marked stab wounds A, B, C, and D. And then there's a large cluster here designated as E, which you can see some, but not all of. And then there's this cluster at the very upper part of the left side of the chest, perhaps you might say the top of the shoulder, designated as F. But focusing maybe on these four, A, B, C, and D, these were injuries which, like the other injuries that we've seen in Mr. Tower, are different sizes and shapes, different amounts of gaping, but basically all consistent with stabbing by the same or similar knives. All of these injuries involved the soft tissues and no real major vascular or vital organ injuries. So like very similar actually to Mr. Tower, the facial injuries largely superficial.
Okay, let's go to 33B, please. And we're looking at the right side of Jennifer Tower's face and neck. Can you describe this group of, this cluster of stab wounds, please?
Yes, this cluster of stab wounds we see here is remarkable for a couple of things. Maybe one thing I didn't point out as much in the other cluster as well is that those stab wounds, not A, B, C, and D, but the E ones. We didn't really talk about this. I'll save that for later. I apologize.
I won't remember later.
I will. So in W, what we see here is that they're all essentially parallel to each other. They're all horizontal to the ground. It's not a very tight cluster, but the fact that all of these are roughly parallel to one another suggests that these were all inflicted on or at about the same time, with the position of the assailant and Ms. Tower here not changed. And to me, that suggests that she was already incapacitated at the time that these injuries were sustained. Of these, and I'm gonna have to refer to my notes here. These involved a lot of soft tissue underlying. One of these perforated superficially into the right side of the larynx. One caused injury to the internal jugular vein, and one caused a transection or complete cutting of the carotid artery near the skull base. Like previously, I can't tell you which of these injuries specifically here caused which internal injury, because once you get past the skin, they commingled too much and I was unable to separate the tracks.
But perforations of the carotid artery and the jugular vein are lethal, may not be. Are they lethal?
Would be expected to be lethal, yes.
And then how many specific stab wounds do we find in this grouping?
I described this as 14 separate wounds. There are a couple, like this looks like it might be one long wound, but I counted this as 2 separate wounds. It appeared to have 2 separate tracks, at least for a brief time under the skin.
And you said that the assailant and Ms. Tower, the victim, were essentially in the same position for all these stabbing.
That's what the clustering suggests, yes.
Let's go now to State's Exhibit 33C. And now we're looking at the left side of Ms. Tower's face or upper cheek. And let's talk about these injuries, please.
So this is almost a mirror image of what we saw in the last photo, the left side of the face. So here's the left ear. And of these injuries, you can see D and a little bit of B here that we already described. This cluster, very much like W, has many injuries which are all essentially the same orientation. They're all relatively parallel to one another. And this clustering suggests that the injuries were all sustained at about the same point in time, where the assailant and Ms. Tower were not moving relative to one another. Again, likely that she was already incapacitated at this time. These injuries also became commingled underneath the skin, so I was unable to specifically separate out the wound tracks of them as they went deeper, but at least one of them injured the left internal jugular vein. So we saw an injury to the right internal jugular vein from the other side, and this cluster of injuries caused at least one injury to the left internal jugular vein.
What's the function of the jugular vein?
The jugular vein brings all the blood from the brain and much of the face and the other tissues of the head and neck
I'm here.
down to go back to the superior vena cava and back to the heart.
What is the function of the carotid artery?
The carotid arteries on each side are the main arteries which supply blood to the brain. They also supply blood to the eyes and the facial muscles and essentially all the structures and tissues in the head.
Let's look now at phase 33D, and this is going to be another cluster of wounds. Oh my God.
Yes.
Can you tell us about that, Robbie?
Yes, I have a small grouping of injuries labeled X. There are other injuries YAC. Perhaps we'll see in other photos, but these injuries are to the back left side of the neck. So this is that cluster that we just looked at in E. And these injuries involve soft tissue, but no major vascular or vital structure injury.
33E. Talk about this. Would you describe it as a cluster, or are they too far apart to be clustered?
I think a cluster is a reasonable description for how I chose to document and photograph these injuries. They have similarity to the other ones that we've seen, the other clusters, in that the injuries are relatively parallel. They're not quite as tightly clustered, and there's a little variation in the angle, but I suspect that these injuries were also sustained in a similar way after Ms. Tower was essentially incapacitated.
And just to remind the jury, when you first arrived at the death scene, describe how the victims were lying. Were they prone or supine?
They were both prone, meaning they were lying face down.
So Ms. Towers would have been in this position, and so Mr. Towers, Mr. and Mrs. Towers would have been in this position, face down, when these wounds were inflicted. If what you say, well, I know you can't opine about that, but
Objection, counsel, testifying.
Sustained.
would these wounds have been inflicted after Ms. Towers was incapacitated?
I believe so, yes.
Now I want to talk about the stab wounds to Jennifer Towers' chest. I'm going to move on to State Exhibit 33F. This is a close-up doctor, so if you can just tell us about O and P and the injuries and the damage to Ms. Towers' body.
Give me just a moment, please.
We'll be on 5 and going over to 6. Page 5 and 6.
Yes. Okay. This is this particular photograph doesn't have landmarks to guide the location, so I want to make sure I was looking at the right part of my report.
And this was for a matter of decency, so like.
I understand. So these two are on the left lateral side of the chest. So the area of the chest is lateral and upper. So in this region here, what we might call the upper flank. As you can see, they're relatively close together, but not overlapping, and have a similar orientation. But unlike the other injuries that we saw that were like that, there's only two of them. It's not a larger number, so I don't think I would designate this as a cluster. But there are two separate stab wounds there that have similar paths. They both involve soft tissue, and the wound O here just goes deep enough to penetrate into the left lung cavity. But that's all. It didn't go any deeper, so it didn't even injure the left lung at all.
Right. Now I'd like to move on to stab wounds of Jennifer Towers' back. We're going to be looking at State Exhibit 33G. What's significant about this photograph and the injuries that are depicted up?
So for reference, we've already talked about these wounds up here in the neck, clusters E and X. I mentioned Z briefly, but we didn't describe it any further. And then we have what I grouped as E and C and B. Of these injuries, I think you'll notice right off that they don't have that same clustering effect of being closer together and parallel in the same orientation. So I can't really make any opinion as to how or what order or what the relative condition Ms. Tower would have been in at the time that these injuries were sustained. Of all of them, BBCC and EE, all of them involve only soft tissue and no significant deeper injuries.
You also found during autopsy stab wounds of Jennifer Towers' right shoulder, and those are depicted on State Exhibit 33H. Can you address these injuries, please?
Yes, and this particular photograph really highlights.
Is it too fast, Cindy? If it is, I can slow it down a little bit. You said he's having a hard time with all of this. I feel for him. He has to live with this for the rest of his life. You know, Cindy, I totally agree. I think if he would have gotten the appropriate therapy when he was brought over, because they knew when they brought him over here when he was 14 years old, that he had anger and rage issues. Come on, he came from a war zone. He was in an orphanage. So really, the judge wants to sit there and be so hard on him, but yet everybody failed him. Granted, what he did was wrong. It was not right by any means. But I feel sticking this kid in prison, he's going to go to prison. But what about a mental facility? He has mental issues. Why would you stick him in a prison with a bunch of people and just that you're setting this poor kid up for failure again? His adopted dad called and said, I don't want him here. Please come get him. He says, I have to sleep with the door locked at night because I'm scared of him.
It's injury Q here. There's an injury R here, which you see most of, but not all of here. That's a different orientation, but close by to Q. These are essentially similar to O and P that we saw before. Two ones that are relatively close by, but don't have the same orientation. Of these.
No, he came directly from an orphanage because his mother died. And he was in an orphanage from the time he was, I think his mom died between 6 and 8, sometime between 6 and 8 years old. Then he was in an orphanage. So what happened to dad? Did he pass away too? And we don't know how mom met her demise. What if somebody would have hurt her and he's seen it? I mean, there's more to this of his life before this happened, and I think they need to address it. They need to address it. It's not fair what he did. It's not fair that these people are gone and never coming back. But I think he should have some help. Yeah, I don't want people to think that I'm totally for this kid and I don't care about the victims. I do, because what he did was wrong and he does need to go to prison for the rest of his life. But I don't think it's a prison is what he needs. He needs somewhere where he can gain knowledge. Really, he was only 20-something years old. His brain wasn't even developed. Thanks for sharing your opinions, Cindy. I appreciate it. That way it gives me something to talk about. All right, here we go.
Neither one of them causes any particular underlying injury, just soft tissue injury.
Let's move on to Ms. Tower's right arm.
Oh, great. Amy's calling.
State exhibit 33I. Can you talk about these two injuries that you've labeled M?
Yes. So M has, actually, I'm going to take a moment to review what I've written here. I want to make sure I get this correct. Yes. Okay. So in this particular photo, we see two injuries, one of which has its letter covered. This is a superficial injury. It does not involve anything with subcutaneous fat. M is a deep injury which traverses the skin and goes through the muscle and actually exits the arm on the other side. And that injury is separately designated as a letter in my photographs and documentation, but you can't see that injury in this particular photo. It's on the other side. Part of what's bridging these here is a superficial scratch. This really has nothing to do with the internal track of the blade as it injured the soft tissues between the entry here and as it stuck out the skin on the other side, which you don't see, and I have designated as S. Yeah.
We'll look at that in a moment.
Yeah.
All right, so again, we're looking at M. S, unfortunately, is hard to see, although there's a tag or a sticker on the far side, but your trajectory rod goes from M through into S.
Yes, and you can see the other end of the rod here, and we use these trajectory rods simply to demonstrate when an injury does pass all the way through the body, and when it does so clearly, so that these are inserted when the path through the tissue is already clear, just to demonstrate that for photography purposes.
So based upon what we're seeing, Doctor, did the cutting instrument or knife or whatever was used, did that go from M all the way through? Is it a through and through stab?
It is.
What about K? Wound K.
K is longer on the skin than it is deep, so it might be best classified as a cut or slash, and thus is relatively superficial, did not cause any major underlying injury. And I believe the same is true for this injury here, which is J, which we can just barely see at the edge of the photo there.
Let's move on now to 33L, and here's J.
Yes.
So, again,
J,
looking at it through and through.
we are, and it's very superficial, this one. The other one, you can see S here now without the trajectory rod through it. That's M was over here, and the trajectory rod passed through here to S. Here we see a very superficial wound that was just long and deep enough to have a small exit over here on the edge, if you will, of the wrist area, as opposed to the middle of the forearm here.
These two injuries that we looked at, M into S and then J, are you able to say whether those are defensive wounds because they're on the victim's arm?
I think they're consistent with using the arms for self-defense during a knife assault. Some might characterize that then as being a defensive wound.
Now we're going to look at Ms. Tower's right hand. And what do we see here?
So this is the palm of her right hand, and this photograph was taken as the body was received by us, so before any cleaning was done. But even so, you can see the clear stab wound on the thumb side of the palm here next to the base of the thumb.
Okay, we're moving to the next photograph. They're related. So we see at the base of the thumb, and then we see at the base of the thumb on the opposite side of the hand. So what's going on with these two?
Yes, so this is an entrance and exit pair, as we identified previously. The stab wound essentially passes through the soft tissue of the side of the hand at the base of the thumb and injured the underlying tissues, but no bone or anything more major than that.
Let's look at the left arm. This is the 33O. We're looking at, is this a superficial wound, Doctor?
It is. It passes, this cut wound goes just a little bit deeper than the subcutaneous fat there, but does not involve any deeper structures and certainly no major vessels or vital organs.
33P.
P shows us two injuries. H, which is a slashing type or deep cutting injury, that again involves only the subcutaneous fat, and I is a penetrating injury that involves the skin and soft tissue, but does not go particularly deep and does not cause any additional major injury.
Is this Mrs. Tower's left leg? Back left leg.
Correct.
Now I want to talk about Jennifer Tower's larynx. It appears that you removed both larynx from the chicken. So what did you find that was distinctive about Jennifer Tower's larynx?
She did have a single stab perforation of the larynx here, but there were no deeper injuries. There were no stabs throughout the area through which the air actually passes. So the structures here were all intact. That's why the only photo I took here, I did not include that propping stick so you could open up and see what was internal. There were no findings that were significant here, just this one superficial perforation into the larynx. And I think it's worth noting that this is the inner surface of the upper portion of the larynx here. So the stab wound came from the outside through this in, but didn't go any deeper.
Doctor, after performing the autopsy on Jennifer Towers, were you able to form an opinion as to the cause of Jennifer Towers' death?
I was, yes.
What is and what's your opinion?
Similar to Mr. Tower, I determined her cause of death to be perforations of multiple small and large blood vessels, including the carotid artery and jugular vein, due to multiple stab wounds.
And do you have an opinion as to the manner of Jennifer Towers' death?
Yes.
What is your opinion, Doctor?
My opinion was and remains that the manner of death is homicide.
You have a moment for I have nothing further at this time, Doctor. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are those the photos and evidence, Ms. Frabley, that you have?
Yes, they do.
Can we return those to the clerk? All right, defense, cross when you're ready.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Doctor. How are you?
Good afternoon. I'm fine. How are you, sir?
Wonderful. So we noticed in some of those pictures there was some redness and different coloring. Is that from the pooling from being in the prone position for a long period of time?
There is lividity that was present in those photos. Lividity is the pooling of blood that occurs after death, and it did occur because the bodies were in that position for a period of time.
Okay. So the redness that was seen, like different color skin colors, doesn't necessarily denote anything other than the pooling. Is that a fair statement?
It is.
Okay. It's the same with if somebody's laying face down after death, you would expect the same pooling in the face area, correct?
Yes.
And could that make it appear as if there was bruising there?
It could. Yes.
So all of the different areas where we see redness as opposed to the white, that would be indications of pooling, lividity, and where blood is settling, correct?
Almost everywhere. I'm trying to remember if there were any pink or red contusions anywhere in the body. So there might have been a little bit of red contusion in one of the cases, but I think everywhere that I saw contusion, it was blue, and we talked about that.
Got it. So when we're talking about the different injuries, you say it's not necessarily from different implements just because they look different. If they're bigger, longer, things like that, it doesn't denote anything as far as different implements, correct?
That's correct.
All right. And I would suggest that would you say the vast majority of these injuries you would describe as superficial?
I would describe them at least as not deep enough to be life-threatening.
Sure. And I think the majority of the wounds that you talked about said that they were soft tissue wounds, correct?
That's right.
And those would not be lethal in and of themselves.
Correct.
When you're talking about the cause of death, that is different than the mechanism of death, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Sometimes they can be very closely related. Sometimes they're a little more distant, but yes.
So in this instance, you said the cause of death was multiple perforations, correct?
Yes.
In Mr. Tower's case, there were multiple perforations that were caused by stab wounds. That's the cause of death, correct?
Yes.
Would the mechanism of death in that case be essentially lowering the blood pressure to make the heart stop? Would that be kind of the mechanism by which the body would work?
Sorry, Amy called and I had to call her really quick. Culture shock, language barriers, trauma. living in a war zone, losing his parents, potential religious differences, previous rage issues. I believe there are more things than that are on. Yes, I agree. I agree. He definitely has some things going on. He says he's got rage issues, and that could be because of the war. He had to protect himself where he came from. Maybe he felt threatened by these people. Maybe we're not getting the whole story about the life that he was living with them. I heard that Mr. Robbie was not the nicest person. He says during his testimony, he did not feel wanted by him at all. Okay, here we go.
Yes.
Okay. Now, obviously, if there are lots of punctures into the lung cavity, that can create some other issues as far as lack of pressure and lungs not being able to expand. Did you see that in this particular case?
I didn't.
Okay. So essentially, it's the getting of the artery in the neck that is the majority of the problem, correct?
I think those were the most severe of the injuries by far in both cases. But I didn't want to rule out the cumulative effect of blood loss from all injuries, and that's why I didn't single those out specifically, but included the other injuries as well.
And I know that I'm kind of conflating both of them, but it sounds like the cause of death for both of these individuals is essentially the same: the loss of blood from multiple perforations from stab wounds, correct?
Yes.
And that would be a similar mechanism of death as well, correct?
Yes.
All right. Now we're talking about manner of death being homicide. You would agree with me that there's only a finite number of manners of death that you could qualify as, correct?
There are only 5. Yes.
Okay. And that would be homicide, correct?
Yes.
Suicide?
Yes.
Natural death?
Correct.
Unknown? I mean, you don't know what the manner of death is, correct?
We use undetermined, but more or less the same thing. Yes.
And what's the fifth one? You said there were 5. What's the fifth one?
Homicide.
We started with homicide.
Okay.
Suicide, correct?
Yes.
That's 2.
Natural, undetermined, and accident.
Accident. Thank you so much. All right. So when we're talking about those things, you're not making a determination as far as legally this is what qualifies. That's more of an analysis to determine across the state how many homicides occur, how many suicides occur, things along those lines, correct?
That's right.
All right. Nothing for you, Your Honor.
First of all, Doctor, on cross-examination, there was a question about whether either of the victim had sustained any other injuries aside from the knife wounds. Did Mr. Tower have an injury to his head?
Yes.
Can you tell us what that injury consisted of, please?
So one of the injuries that we described was the lettered injury O, and that had it was more of a scrape as opposed to a penetrating blade wound. Let me make sure I'm referring to any other minor head injury that I might have described. In addition to that injury, I believe we saw these in one of the photos, but I can't remember if they were specifically questioned about. There were 2 small abraded contusions on the head, one to the side of the left eye and one in the region of the chin. They were pretty minor, not necessarily very easy to see.
Yes, I did not question you on those, but I am questioning on now. So in addition to those additional injuries to Mr. Tower's head, I want to ask you this final question. If a defendant admitted to killing his parents, would that be consistent with your finding of homicide?
Yes.
Thank you. Nothing else.
Thank
Yes.
you, Your Honor.
All right, in just a moment, we're going to take about a 10 or 15-minute break, okay? So if you can leave your notepads face down, writing implements on top. We'll discuss anything related to your jury service during our break, and we'll bring you back shortly, okay? Everybody please stand. Jurors exiting. Everybody may be seated. There's something else we need to cover. Let's have the attorneys come forward. It has to be done now. Okay, you want it done now? Okay. All right, folks, there is a stipulation as to the identity of the victims / decedents. Stipulation meaning both the state and the defense have agreed to this, so it is something for you to consider as a fact. I'll sign it. It will go back with you. See, today's the 13th. It is hereby stipulated by and between the parties of this action that the identity of victim / decedent number 1, in this case, is Robert James Tower, white male, date of birth, August 15th, 1974, a human being, and that the jury in the trial of the above listed cause may be advised of this stipulated fact. It is hereby stipulated by and between the parties of this action that the identity of victim / decedent number 2, in this case, is Jennifer Christine Tower, white female, date of birth, February 8, 1972, a human being, and that the jury in the trial of the above listed cause may be advised of this stipulated fact. All right, let's take our 15-minute break. Everybody please stand. Jurors exiting. Doctor, here you go. All right, State, are you prepared to rest in front of the jury after our break? Okay. Mr. Gilman, any motions from the defense?
Your Honor, I think that at this point, taking evidence in the light also states a factual information as far as premeditation is concerned, so I'm not having legal motions to make this.
Yes, I'll find that the evidence presented in the form of the witnesses, the photographs, the physical evidence, the video of the defendant's statements to law enforcement, of the medical examiner, that there is sufficient evidence in a light most favorable to the state for all 3 of the crimes charged: 2 counts of murder in the first degree and fleeing to elude law enforcement with lights and sirens. So I'll deny the motion for judgment of acquittal as to all 3 counts. This will go to the jury. Mr. Gilman, do you have any evidence that you intend to present during the defense?
Your Honor, I spoke with Mr. Tower about he's indicated his desire to testify. Okay. Against the counsel.
Okay. Everybody may be seated, by the way. Any objection to me speaking to Mr. Tower briefly about the legal concept of this? All right, Mr. Tower, can you please raise your right hand so you can remain seated? You swear or affirm that your testimony will be the truth?
I swear.
You can put your hand down. Please tell me your name.
James Tower.
Mr. Tower, I'm going to speak to you for just a minute, and I want to make sure you understand that at no time am I asking you to divulge any specific statements between you and Mr. Gilman. Those are protected by the attorney-client privilege, and I'm not asking for any specific conversations that you have. Do you understand? If you think that I am, let Mr. Gilman know or tell me you're unsure of my question because that's not what I'm intending to ask, okay? Yes? Okay. The state has just rested their case in chief. They will in just a moment when we bring the jurors back in. They're going to rest on the record. So at this time in the trial, it's the opportunity for the defense, if they wish to call witnesses and produce evidence.
No.
You understand that? You might recall during the jury selection process, I talked to the jury. I spent a considerable amount of time covering this with them, that the burden in a criminal case is solely on the state of Florida, the state attorney.
I'm going to mute that. But you can hear me, right? Yes, I hear that they were very strict and very, very, very religious. So that definitely could have led to some problems because I'm sure he's got way different religious beliefs. I'm sure of it.
Testify is solely or completely your choice. In other words, Mr. Gilman cannot make that choice for you. In fact, nobody can make that choice for you. Do you understand? Mr. Gilman is a very experienced attorney. His job is to counsel you. He can give you his opinion, his advice, talk to you about the evidence that's been presented. But Mr. Gilman cannot make a decision as to whether or not you testify. That's solely your choice. Do you understand? If you choose to testify, there would be a jury instruction. In fact, we've already discussed that. You might recall this morning at 9 when we went over our jury instructions. That instruction would tell the jurors that you would become a witness, that they should consider your testimony just like any other witness. For example, there's a jury instruction 3.9 that says, in addition to your common sense, you should consider the following factors when considering the testimony or credibility of a witness. Did the witness have some interest in how the case should be decided? Did the witness say something in court that's different than a statement they had previously made? Was the witness honest and straightforward in answering the attorney's questions? Does the witness's testimony agree or disagree with the other evidence in the case? Has the witness ever been convicted of a felony or crime of dishonesty? These are just some of the tools that jurors will be using to determine credibility of witnesses. And if you choose to testify, they would use the same tools as it relates to you. Do you understand that, Mr. Tower? Do you have any questions about that? In fact, if you choose to become a witness, you'll be called just like what we'll do is I believe that you have shackles on your ankles. Is that right? Right now, yes. All right. So what we would do is, do we have the sergeant here?
Oh, no, we can do the same as we did.
All right, let's call the sergeant down. We'll figure that out. What we would probably do is have you up at the witness stand so the jurors couldn't see that you're shackled. In fact, they wouldn't be able to see that you're shackled. I see that in this courtroom, the jurors are in front of the witness stand. You would be sworn in by the clerk, just like every other witness. Mr. Gilman would have an opportunity to ask questions first. Your attorney, they would have to be open-ended questions. When Mr. Gilman is finished, the state attorney, one of the two prosecutors, would come up and they'd be able to ask you leading questions. We refer to that as a cross-examination. When the state is completed, Mr. Gilman would have another opportunity to come back. That's called a redirect. And that's what's happened with almost every witness so far. The same would apply to you. Do you understand that, Mr. Tower? Do you have any questions about the procedure or how your testimony would be treated the same as any other witness? No. State, are there any prior felonies or crimes of dishonesty? No. Okay. Do you have any questions about any of the laws that apply if you choose to become a witness? No. If you choose not to become a witness, that's a constitutional right you have. You might recall I spent a considerable time Monday, Mr. Tower, talking to the jurors about that. I explained to them there's many reasons why one might choose not to testify, public speaking being fear number one, death two. And I explained to them that it can't matter, that if you chose not to testify, that's something that the jurors could not take into consideration. In fact, the jury instruction would say that. It would say that Mr. Tower has chosen not to become a witness. You cannot consider that decision as any consciousness of guilt. In fact, the jury will be told they can't consider that in any manner whatsoever. Do you understand that? Do you have any questions about the laws that would apply if you choose not to become a witness? No. Have you had an opportunity, not what you said, but have you had an opportunity to talk to your lawyer and ask him questions before you reach your decision as to whether or not you will testify?
I have.
Do you need any additional time, Mr. Tower, to talk to your attorney before you tell me what your decision is?
No.
Okay. And have you reached a decision?
Yes.
And what is your decision?
I want to testify.
Okay. Has anybody pressured you or forced you in order to get you to testify?
No.
Are you doing this freely and voluntarily?
Yes.
Do you have a clear mind as you're entering into your decision today?
Yes.
Are you taking any medication right now while you're at the jail?
No.
Do you have any questions of the court, anything related to the laws surrounding your decision?
No.
Or your testimony?
No.
Okay. I'll find that the defendant has made a freely and voluntarily and knowing decision to become a witness in the case. So let's take a 10-minute break. What we'll do, any objection, Mr. Gilman, state to having Mr. Tower on the stand when the jurors come back in, you can call him?
No.
Okay. And then, so Mr. Tower, what we'll do is when we come back from a break, we're going to have you on the stand. Again, the purpose is so that they don't see the shackles on your feet. Okay. And we'll have you standing in when the jurors come in front of the chair so the jurors can't see it. What will happen is I'll have everybody seated. The state will rest on the record in front of the jury. I'll then turn to Mr. Gilman, your lawyer. He's going to call you as a witness. At that time, I'm going to ask you to stand on your chair. Do so carefully not to make noise with the shackles, okay? You'll stand at that moment, face the clerk. Our clerk Emily is going to swear you in, so ask you to raise your right hand.
This is crazy.
You'll be sworn in. You'll have a seat. When your testimony is completed, give me a moment. I'm not going to have you walk back down to your table. Again, we don't want them to know you're in custody and that you're shackled. We'll take a break as soon as your testimony is done. I'll send the jurors out and we'll return you to the table, okay? Unless, yes, let's do it that way because then we'll find out if the state has rebuttal, et cetera, okay? Let's take a 10-minute break. We'll come back with the testimony of the defendant. We'll have him on the stand. State makes you, please call any and all witnesses. I want to finish the evidence portion of the trial today, okay? All right, 10-minute break. 2:50, we'll start at 3 with the defendant on the stand.
That judge is way strict. Oh, don't do it too hard. We don't want the jury to hear you. Where is he going to go? Why can't they just take him off? See, that's what I'm saying, is they're treating him so horrible. Oh, sorry, we don't need you to go off, honey. Okay. This is just about over. Sorry, you're going to hear noise. The people upstairs I told you are moving, remember? Then they're going to stick the landlord with the electricity bill because they had a. I thought some wasn't completely. Well, I guess all courthouses work differently. I'm going to mute until they're done.
All right, everybody may be seated.
I forgot I muted it.
All right, the state has rested their case in chief, so I'll turn to the defense. Mr. Gilman.
Defense calls Dima Tower.
All right, Mr. Tower, can you please stand and face the clerk? Madam Clerk, can you swear in the witness?
I swear.
You may be seated. Mr. Gilman, when you're ready.
Can you just move a little closer? Make sure you're talking to the microphone there. Okay. Can you please tell us your name?
Dima James Tower.
And Mr. Tower, how old are you?
I'm 24.
Okay. And where? I know you have an accent. Where were you born?
I was born in Ukraine.
What part of Ukraine?
In far east part, Luhansk. That is borders with Russia.
And when did you come to live in the United States?
I came in 2015.
So you were living in Ukraine in February of 2014 when there was an incursion into Crimea? I use a lot of big words there. I'm sorry. Were you living in Ukraine in February of 2014?
Yes.
Okay. And where were you living when you were in Ukraine before you came to the United States? Where were you living?
Well,
what type of house?
Before the orphanage?
No, I was talking about the orphanage. Tell me about that. What type of place was that?
Should I talk about my life before the orphanage? Or?
We will, sure. How did you end up getting to an orphanage?
Yeah, I mean, I'll allow brief background, very, very brief. So let's not spend too much time.
Sure. And you're actually, if we could approach briefly.
You may.
Okay, I'll slow it down. I just wrote up a whole bunch of something there. No, the rent is not included, and the electricity would be shut off Monday.
So
there was a note on their door.
How old were you when your mother?
And the electricity is still in their mom's name, and she died in June. Can you hear me? Okay. We will.
Passed away.
Well, my mother passed away. You know, I would like to talk about before I would start about talking about my life before my mother passed away.
I understand that. The issue that is that I'm hoping that you can respond to the questions.
Yeah, I can respond to the questions,
sure. But okay. So your mother, how old were you when your mother passed away?
I'm somewhere between 6, 7, or 8.
Okay.
I was thinking about this somewhere between those years.
Okay.
I mean, if maybe I can give a little bit of my personal background or something.
Mr. Tower, the way it's going to work the same with all witnesses. You need to listen to the question and then answer only the question that's been asked of you. Okay?
Well, it's important that
it may be important, but you need to follow the rules in the courtroom. Okay? Please ask your next question.
Sure. Were you just living only with your mom when she passed?
Yes.
Okay.
I was.
And then who did you go to live with after that?
I went to live with my brother.
How long did that last for?
It was a couple months or so.
And then where did you go?
I went to my uncle's house.
Okay, how long did that last for?
A couple months.
And you eventually end up in the foster care system in Ukraine, correct?
Yeah, I was in two orphanage for foster care, orphanages, whatever they call that. First one I was in before the war, and then I was.
I think he's trying to give a time frame of when he was in the orphanage. You can answer the question.
I was in the first orphanage in that same region I was born in, the same side of Ukraine. And then when the war started, we were moved to another part of Ukraine, which is somewhere close to the sea.
And was it around that time that you met the Towers, that they came over to meet you?
Yes, I met him at the, I believe it was end of summer of 2013. I met him. Well, I actually met him over here after I was sent to visit for a month in the States. I flew in and met him at the airport.
Was that the first time that you had met them?
That was the first time, yes.
And how long after that do you come to this country?
Well, I also came for the second visit. That summer of 2014, I came for the second visit to meet the rest of the family.
And then you come to live permanently when? In 2015?
Well, I was adopted right before 2015. I was adopted that winter, and I came to live here in 2015 years.
Okay. Did you go to school here in Sarasota County?
The questions that you're asking me are very complicated, and cannot be simply answered. But I'm forced to simply answer questions, which cannot, for no right reason, can be answered simply. These are not simple questions.
I object to the editorializing by this witness. Other witnesses are not allowed to have this kind of conversation.
Let's try not to have speaking objections, Counselor. I'll sustain the objection as non-responsive. Please move on. Do
you remember talking to law enforcement in this case and telling them that you went to Northport High School for a little while?
Yeah, right after I was adopted, I went to the school in Northport, the Woodland Middle School. And then after I did half a year in that, I enrolled in Northport High School, which I dropped out of in 10th grade.
And did you know any English before you came to the United States?
No.
How did you learn English?
By conversating here and there, small talk.
All right. And how long did you live with the Towers prior to, either graduating high school or moving out?
Again, this is a complicated question, and the answer, it can be very long because I moved in, I moved out.
I'm going to sustain the objection as non-responsive.
Okay. You said you dropped out after 10th grade. Did you move out after that?
No, I stayed, but I didn't really move out on my own. It's just too many family issues there.
Okay. And you were not living with them. When did you move back in with them prior to August the 31st of 2023?
I don't understand the question.
So in August of 2023, which is the incident that we're talking about, how long prior to that were you back living with the house? I know you had just moved back there, correct?
Well, yeah, I assume that
Do you know, Mr. Tower?
Remember the jurors, let's take a break. Let's leave your notepads face down, writing implements on top. Please don't discuss anything related to your jurors. Everybody stand, jurors exiting.
Uh-oh, he's going to be in trouble. I don't think he's crying because of what he did. I think he's crying because he's
Mr. Gibbon, why don't you stand over your client?
being
You
up
can't
there.
tolerate this kind of behavior here in the courtroom. You've already spoken to your client about it. So let's take a 5-minute break. Let's let the defense have an opportunity to talk to the defendant to see if he can go forward.
I don't think he's going to listen to his lawyer. I think his lawyer's had a hard time with him. sorry, I was up. Oh.
Are you okay and able to continue?
Yeah.
Yes.
He doesn't want to
You understand why we took
talk
the break,
about
right?
what
I can't
he
have
wants.
that kind of show of emotion in front of the jury to, that applies to you and every other witness. You might recall I even said that about the folks in the audience. Do you recall that, Mr. Tower?
I think he feels if the jury hears his sad story, yeah, that the jury's not going to give him a harsh penalty. They're not going to find him guilty because they're going to feel sorry for him. But that's not it. Yes. I don't know why he has no support. It's sad. I think he did it because he wasn't understanding everything at that moment. Maybe they should have left him alone. Don't adopt people from another country if you're not going to get them help, especially a war country.
All right, Peter.
Why didn't they bring somebody in that speaks Russian? Because that's probably what he speaks. And it probably would have been easier.
Everybody may be seated. Welcome back, members
He's
of the
having a
jury.
hard time finding the right word.
All right, Mr. Gilman, when you're ready, please continue.
All right. And Mr. Tower, I want to focus you on when you sat down and talked with the police down there in Venice. Do you remember that?
I do.
Okay. Was that the first time that you had ever had that kind of encounter with police?
Yes.
How'd that make you feel?
Awkward. Made me feel awkward.
Hold on, 1 moment. I'll overrule the objection.
Okay. Why would you say it makes you feel awkward?
Because I'm comfortable talking because I had many miscommunication and not communication or misunderstanding with my adopted parents. So I grew up to not knowing how to talk.
Overruled. It was completing the answer. You may continue, Mr. Gilman.
So when you were talking with the police, did you understand everything that they were asking you?
I did.
Did you feel like you answered appropriately given that you were uncomfortable?
No.
Okay. Do you remember talking with them about multiple times having thoughts of killing your parents?
Yeah, I only had those thoughts a couple times.
Okay. Did you ever have a plan in place to make that happen?
No, I did not.
I don't think I have anything further, Judge.
State cross-examination, you ready?
Are you going to look me in the eye, Mr. Tower? That's not. So you said you didn't think about killing your parents.
I did not plan on it.
Mr. Tower,
It was not premeditated.
Mr. Tower, when I ask you a question, you can answer, but not until then. You pulled out a sharp knife and you walked into your parents' bedroom, didn't you?
Yes.
Okay. What were you thinking about between the time you took that sharp knife, walked into your parents' bedroom, and started to stab your father in the dark?
I wasn't thinking anything.
You weren't thinking anything.
What is there to think?
I don't know. Your parents were sound asleep, weren't they?
I don't know.
Was your father awake when you started to stab him?
It was pitch black.
You picked up a knife from the kitchen and you cowardly went into your... Were your parents awake?
And his
I don't know if they're
lawyer,
awake. I already answered it. She asked me a sick time.
What did you...
and his lawyer didn't even ask. He could have asked him some questions about back home and about how he grew up. I mean, come on. That's all he wanted was to be heard. Oh, poor kid. I don't know. I don't know what to do. I feel like this would have never have happened.
Say,
You asked me a second time, same question.
what did your father say after you stabbed him?
What the hell are you doing?
And then what happened? Did you stab him again?
Yes.
Okay, what were you thinking about between the first stab and the second stab?
There's nothing to think.
Nothing to think.
What am I supposed to think then?
Listen to me. There was nothing to think. That's your answer. All right. So you're telling me that as a human being, you walk into your father's bedroom with your mother sleeping next to him. The parents that brought you over here.
Objection, argumentative, compound question.
These people were not my parents.
Hold on. I'm going to overrule the objection. It's a bit compoundish, but I'm going to allow it. You may continue with your question.
The parents that brought you over here to this country, and you weren't thinking anything.
These people were not my parents. There's a lot went on that changed our relationship.
That's not my question. My question is, are you telling this jury that you won't even look in the eye that the people who brought you over here and gave you a home, that you were stabbing them and you didn't think anything of it? Is that what you're saying?
The answer's too complicated for you.
No, it's not a complicated answer. It's a yes or it's a no.
It's not. It's a complicated answer.
However, you told the detectives that you were a nobody from nowhere, didn't you?
When I was talking to detectives, I was not in my completely right state of mind.
Mr. Tower, did you tell the detectives that you were a nobody from nowhere?
I just answered your question.
No, you didn't.
I said I was not in my right state of mind when I was talking to detectives. I just went on a lot,
I'll let the jury recall what they did.
Objection, argumentative.
I was under the influence of alcohol also.
I'll sustain it as unresponsive. He's not answering your question.
Your parents.
They were not my parents, unfortunately.
Sir, you cannot interrupt the attorney. Wait for them to finish their question, and then you can answer the question asked of you, okay? Please ask your question.
Mr. Tower, the people that brought you over here, they gave you an opportunity to be a somebody from somewhere, didn't they?
It depends on their parenting. It depends on their parenting, how you raise your children.
Depends on what?
You don't even know what I'm talking about. Have you ever been a mother of children?
After you stabbed your father to death, you walked outside with a knife in your hand because Jennifer was outdoors, wasn't she?
I was temporarily insane.
Sir, can you please sit back on the microphone? It's difficult to hear you. Thank you.
All right. When you walked out of the house after you killed your father, did you carry the knife with you to lead Jennifer back in?
I did.
You did or did not? I can't understand.
I said I did.
You did. You took the knife with you to go out and find the person that adopted you.
Yes, I was temporarily insane, as I said.
Temporarily insane.
Yes.
Members of the jury, I'm going to ask that you strike that last response. There is no insanity defense. There is no evidence presented in this trial to insanity. So I will just order that you not receive that answer. It's irrelevant and not permissible during this trial. Please ask your next question.
Were you thinking about killing your mother when you went outside with a knife and led her back in?
What do you mean by thinking?
Did your parents buy you a car?
Objection outside the scope.
What does that have to do with this?
Did your parents buy you a car? Answer my question.
Well, I know where your question is. I know. I
Answer
don't
my
understand.
question,
I don't
Mr.
understand your
Tower.
question. I don't understand it.
Did your parents buy you a car?
I don't understand this question.
Did your parents get you a bank card?
At this point, he's better off not even being up there. He's just making himself look worse.
Yes, and I don't understand it. What's the point of this question?
Did your parents get you a bank card?
So?
Did you have a TV in your room?
No. What's the point of these questions?
You told the detectives that you were thinking about killing your parents for the last several days. Isn't that true?
That is not true.
Were you in the courtroom when your recording was played? Mr. Tower,
I was.
were you listening?
I was listening.
And did you hear that you were telling the detectives that you were thinking about that for more than a day?
Again.
You don't remember that?
Again, I did not know what I was saying. Also, I only taught this a couple of times. This was not a constant thought in my head.
Okay, so you thought about it at least a couple times before you did it?
No, I taught it one time, and the second time I taught it, I did it. There was no thinking about it.
You thought about it the first time, and then you put it off. Then you thought about it the second time, and then you went and did it. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. So when you thought about it the first time, where were you?
Probably in the car somewhere.
Where in the car? Parked in front of your house?
Possibly. Very possibly.
Very possibly.
Well, I don't remember. You asking me a question that happened a long time ago. I don't remember.
Okay. Why did you ask your mother to go back inside the house?
Brought off the street. I don't know.
Because you wanted to kill her, didn't you? Did you hear the doctor talk about how many times you stabbed your mother, Jennifer Towers, the person that you said is not your mother? How many times did you stab her?
You're talking to someone who has no understanding.
You don't understand that question?
No, you don't understand what you're saying.
How many times did you stab your mother?
Sorry, that was funny.
I don't know.
More
This
than
is
once?
not a time to laugh, but that was funny.
More than once. I don't know how many times.
More than twice?
You've seen it how many times? So we were all in here. You've seen it.
Because these members of the jury have a right to hear what you have to say.
Objection, Your Honor.
They don't hear what I say because I'm not allowed to say
Let's
it.
not have an argument between you and the witness. Okay, let's ask your next question. please.
These jurors are not allowed to what I have to say.
Hold on. Mr. Tower, you need to wait until the question is finished and then answer the question that's asked of you, okay? Please ask your next question.
Thank you. You told the detectives that you stabbed your mother to death, but not until you finished what you had to say to her. What did you have to say to her that night?
There was a lot going on between the three of us.
What did you say to your mother before you stabbed her to death?
I'm answering your question. You're not listening. There was a lot that went on between the three of us. It wasn't just the parents and a child.
So there was a lot that went on among the three of you, correct?
That's what I just said.
Okay.
That I'm being stopped from talking about it.
How old were you when you killed Jennifer and Robbie Tower?
21?
You were a grown man, weren't you?
No, I was not. You don't know the definition of a grown man.
At 21 years old, why didn't you just move out if you didn't like the people that you were living with? Why didn't you just move out?
The age has nothing to do with it.
Mr. Tower, why didn't you just move out if you didn't like the people you were living with?
I did move out a long time ago. I came back.
You went to West Virginia, didn't you?
Before West Virginia, I moved out. I just told you there was a lot that went on between the three of us. That the judge and the state won't let me talk.
Mr. Tower, do you believe in free will?
There's no free will. You know, we're all controlled in the states.
Mr.
Especially-
Tower, answer my question. It's a simple question. Do you believe that people have free will?
The question is not simple. If you look around, this is bigger than us.
When you went to live in West Virginia, how long were you up there?
I lived other places before West Virginia.
I didn't ask you about that. I asked you how long you lived in West Virginia.
Maybe 9 months, 10 months,
And what were you doing up there?
working.
Who set you up in that place to live in West Virginia?
There was a church that I found. The pastor over there helped me.
You were living with Jennifer's father in West Virginia, weren't you?
That was a long time ago before I went to West Virginia to live on my own.
Please answer.
You get
my
it, but
question.
you get
Mr.
the
Tower,
questions mixed up.
Mr. Tower, did you live with Jennifer's father in West Virginia?
That was a long time ago. That was not during the time when I went there by myself.
Why did you go to live in West Virginia when you were living with Jennifer's father?
The time that I did go to West Virginia to live with her father was because
Because why?
I'm going to answer. Let me think about it. We were having fights in the family, and I was going to visit. I was going to see him for
Could we
maybe for a
move
couple,
away
maybe
from
for
the
a couple
microphone
months.
so we can hear?
Maybe for a couple months. I was going to visit him until I went to Job Corps.
Yeah, who set you up in the Job Corps? Jennifer, didn't she?
What is your point?
Did Jennifer set you up in the Job Corps?
No,
Did Jennifer set you up to live with her father in West Virginia?
no. What is the point of your question?
Remember, you're under oath, Mr. Tower. You're
I
under
know I'm
oath
under
to tell
oath.
the truth.
You're making no point in your questions. You're forgetting there was
Mr. Tower,
the
you
father.
wait for a question to be asked of you and then answer the question. Please ask your next question.
You made Jennifer and Robbie's life in their home a living hell, didn't you, Mr. Tower?
Again, there was a lot that went on.
Yes.
Yes, but
Yes.
some adults don't know how to be
Yes.
parents. Yes.
You made their life a living
No,
hell.
they didn't. There's some adults don't know how to be parents. You don't know what you're talking about.
In fact,
I came from a harsh environment.
many people come from harsh
Yeah,
environments
but you
and they don't
gotta
kill
know,
their
you gotta
parents.
know how to treat those people correctly so they grow up properly.
Yeah, so how do you need to be treated?
I have been treated, and it's too late for that. I'm adult now. But you're talking as if you don't know how to be a parent, and you don't know what it takes.
Are you a parent?
No, I'm not a parent. But you're asking me
You made their life
Honest
a living
question.
hell. In fact, your father told you that you were destroying his marriage.
If I
to
made-
his wife. Isn't it true?
if I made their life to
Mr.
live in hell, that's probably had something to do with them.
The two of you are just talking over each
No,
other.
he's
This
refusing
way,
to
You're
answer.
asking a question, he begins to answer, and then you add to your question. Mr. Tower, when she's speaking, you then begin to answer. And what's happening is none of us are catching the question nor the answer. So let's please follow the procedure that we've done all throughout the trial. Let's please do a question, then we'll do a pause, and then the answer. Mr. Tower, I need you to answer the question and not ad-lib and add to it. Okay, sir? Please ask your next question, Mr. Bailey.
Did your father tell you that you were disrupting his marriage to Jennifer Tower, his wife?
Jennifer told me that before the adoption, that in the beginning,
He's
Rob.
not responding.
I'm responding. Rob did not want to adopt at all, and then he wanted to adopt a daughter, and then finally he agreed to adopt a son. So he didn't really want to adopt to begin with.
Mr. Tower, there was no question related to wanting to adopt other children. The question was calling for a yes or no response.
Well, he didn't really want to adopt me, is what I'm saying.
Mr. Tower, if you can please listen to the question and answer yes or no. Please ask the question again.
Thank you. Did your father tell you that you were destroying his marriage to Jennifer?
I was not destroying his marriage to
The
Jennifer.
question, sir, the question was, did your father tell you that? Did your father tell you that, yes or no?
What do you want me to say? He does not love his wife. What do you want me to say?
I'll sustain the objection as unresponsive. He's unable to answer. Please don't move on to your next question.
Who paid for your flights in 2013 and 2014?
As stated, at some point, I'm going to cut off all these questions about perhaps benevolent acts. You can go a bit further, but let's start to move on. Okay, I'll overrule the objection. You may finish your question.
Yes. Who paid for your flights to the United States in 2013 and 2014?
This question is pointless. But however, the company who provided who had something to do with adoption did, and I don't understand what's the point of this question either.
Why did you drop out of high school?
Because I was being brainwashed, as all the rest of the children are.
You dropped out of high school because you were on the verge of getting expelled, weren't you, Mr. Tower?
What expelled? You even know what they teach in schools? What are you talking
Mr.
about?
Tower, answer my question.
I'm answering your question. You don't know what you're saying. These schools today, they don't teach anything. The kids should know, and the schools are not for everyone.
Mr. Tower,
He's right.
you dropped out of high school because you were on the verge of getting expelled from high school.
No, I wasn't. I'm telling you that. You ever been to school? You know that schools that don't teach kids proper education.
Tower, stop talking.
I'm talking because you don't know what you're talking about.
All right, let's move on to the next question. His answer was no. Please move on to your next question.
In fact, you were about to get expelled because you were fighting with other children in the school and on the bus, weren't you, Mr. Tower?
No, I wasn't. I just told you what happened.
How old were you when you dropped out of high school?
I don't remember.
You don't remember. How old were you when you were in 10th grade?
I said I don't remember.
I think at this point she's doing it purposely just to upset him. But she's just proving.
When you were sitting out in your car before you went into the house on the night of August 31st, did you decide to kill your parents before you walked in?
Yes.
I don't have anything else. Thank you, Your Honor.
Redirect, Mr. Gilman.
Oh, man, that was
We're going to take a short
hard.
break, 5-minute break. Please leave your notepads turned over, face down, writing implements on top. Everybody, please stand. Jurors are exiting.
Man, that was rough. Rough.
Will be adjourned. Other than that, anything else we need to talk from the state?
No, Your Honor.
Anything from the defense? Okay. Folks in the audience, we're just going to go over the jury instructions now. It's not very exciting, really. You're welcome to stay. You're welcome to leave. It'll probably be about 15 or 20 minutes, and then we're going to adjourn for the day.
All right, we're going to go to day 3. We already know the jury instructions.
Or highlighted it anyway. We have no lesser as both sides agreed as to count 3, the fleeing to elude. We have the month and place for the foreperson to date and sign it.
Is that okay?
Lastly,
or-
submitting case to jury, we discussed is legally
she was
accurate. Any
supposed to
objection
be
to the
fine.
instructions as
She
they
knew what
currently are?
she was doing.
Yeah, I think they're legally accurate, comprehensive, and appropriate in this case. So I'm going to make copies for all the jurors. Are you folks able to make your own copies for the
Yes, Your
evening
Honor.
so you can prepare?
Absolutely.
All right, I'll have a copy on your desk in the morning, just so you have exactly the same copy from my stack, but you have a working copy so you can prepare this evening. All right, Mr. Gilman, any renewed motions for judgment of acquittal now that the defense has put on a witness?
No, Your Honor.
All right, I'll deny the renewed motion for, if there was one. I'll find that there is sufficient evidence for the jury to find the defendant guilty as charged based on the evidence
Okay.
presented and even in light of the defendant now taking the stand. Folks, have a nice evening. If you can just be ready to start up at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, okay? All right, have a good night.
He's mad at his lawyer because he didn't ask him the right questions. I think he gave his lawyer questions and he didn't ask them. I think he might get a retrial. I mean, we all know that he's guilty, but I don't know. Okay. Well, that was day 2. So let's go to day 3. And they're going to do the arguments. And then we'll be on jury watch. We're going to wait. We're going to watch it for the whole 2 hours until they come back. We're just going to sit here and look at the seal of Florida. Or wherever they're at. Florida, yeah, Northport. Oh, is this day 3 already ready for me? I don't know which one this is. Oh, no, this is the beginning. Oh, no, we're not watching that again. Oh, no. We got to go to day 3. That's day 2. Here we go. Are you back yet, Cindy? So what do you guys think about his testimony? I don't think he should have been put up on that stand, period. Oh, that poor kid. Well, and poor parents. Understand, I totally think what he did was wrong, but I do have some sympathy for him. I think he was wronged. He should have never been brought to America. He does not accept these. You know, I'm gonna try to find more history on him. Find out. Maybe I might do a live about it.
If a dangerous weapon is not used and the killing is not done in a cruel or unusual manner. Dangerous weapon is any weapon that, taking into account the manner in which it is used, is likely to produce death or great bodily harm. I now instruct you on the circumstances that must be proved before Dima Tower may be found guilty of murder in the first degree of victims Jennifer Tower and Robbie Tower, or any lesser included crime. Count 1, murder in the first degree. To prove the crime of first degree premeditated murder, the state must prove the following 3 elements beyond a reasonable doubt. 1, Jennifer Tower is dead. And 2, the death was caused by the criminal act of Dima Tower. And 3, there was a premeditated killing of Jennifer Tower. An act includes a series of related actions arising from and performed pursuant to a single design or purpose. Killing with premeditation is killing after consciously deciding to do so. The decision must be present in the mind at the time of the killing. The law does not fix the exact period of time that must pass between the formation of the premeditated intent to kill and the killing. The period of time must be long enough to allow reflection by the defendant. The premeditated intent to kill must be formed before the killing. The question of premeditation is a question of fact to be determined by you from the evidence. It will be sufficient proof of premeditation if the circumstances of the killing and the conduct of the accused convince you beyond a reasonable doubt of the existence of premeditation at the time of the killing. Count 2, murder in the first degree. To prove the crime of first degree premeditated murder, the state must prove the following 3 elements beyond a reasonable doubt. 1, Robbie Tower is dead. And 2, the death was caused by the criminal act of Dima Tower. And 3, there was a premeditated killing of Robbie Tower. An act includes a series of related actions arising from and performed pursuant to a single design or purpose. Killing with premeditation is killing after consciously deciding to do so. The decision must be present in the mind at the time of the killing. The law does not fix the exact period of time that must pass between the formation of the premeditated intent to kill and the killing. The period of time must be long enough to allow reflection by the defendant. The premeditated intent to kill must be formed before the killing. The question of premeditation is a question of fact to be determined by you from the evidence. It will be sufficient proof of premeditation if the circumstances of the killing and the conduct of the accused convince you beyond a reasonable doubt of the existence of premeditation at the time of the killing. Count 3, fleeing to elude a law enforcement with siren and lights activated. To prove the crime of fleeing to elude a law enforcement officer, the state must prove the following 3 elements beyond a reasonable doubt. 1, Dima Tower was operating the vehicle upon a street or highway in Florida. And 2, Dima Tower, knowing he had been directed to stop by a duly authorized law enforcement officer, willfully fled in a vehicle in an attempt to elude a law enforcement officer. And 3, the law enforcement officer was in an authorized law enforcement patrol vehicle with agency insignia and other jurisdictional markings prominently displayed on the vehicle and with siren and lights activated. Street or highway means the entire width between boundary lines of every way or place of whatever nature when any part thereof is open to the public for purposes of vehicular traffic. Vehicle means every device in, upon, or by which any person or property is or may be transported or drawn upon a highway, except personal delivery devices, mobile carriers, and devices used exclusively upon stationary rails or tracks. Willfully means intentionally, knowingly, and purposely. In considering the evidence, you should consider the possibility that although the evidence may not convince you that the defendant committed the main crime of which he is accused, there may be evidence that he committed other acts that would constitute lesser included crimes. Therefore, if you decide that the main accusation has not been proved beyond a reasonable doubt, you will next need to decide if the defendant is guilty of any lesser included crime. The lesser crimes indicated in the definition of murder in the first degree are murder in the second degree, manslaughter. To prove the crime of second degree murder as a lesser crime of first degree murder, the state must prove the following 3 elements beyond a reasonable doubt. 1, Jennifer Tower is dead. And 2, the death was caused by the criminal act of Dima Tower. And 3, there was an unlawful killing of Jennifer Tower by an act imminently dangerous to another and demonstrating a depraved mind without regard for human life. An act includes a series of related actions arising from and performed pursuant to a single design or purpose. An act is imminently dangerous to another and demonstrating a depraved mind if it is an act or series of acts that 1. A person of ordinary judgment would know is reasonably certain to kill or do serious bodily harm to another, and 2. Is done from ill will, hatred, spite, or an evil intent, and 3. Is of such a nature that the act itself indicates an indifference to human life. In order to convict of second-degree murder, it is not necessary for the state to prove the defendant had an intent to cause death. To prove the crime of manslaughter as a lesser crime of first-degree murder, the state must prove the following 2 elements beyond a reasonable doubt. 1. Jennifer Tower is dead, and 2. Dima Tower intentionally committed an act or acts that caused the death of Jennifer Tower. Every person has a duty to act reasonably towards others. If there is a violation of that duty without any conscious intention to harm, that violation is negligence. The defendant cannot be guilty of manslaughter by committing a merely negligent act, or if the killing was either justifiable or excusable homicide, as I have previously instructed you. In order to convict of manslaughter by act, it is not necessary for the state to prove that the defendant had an intent to cause death, only an intent to commit an act that was not merely negligent, justified, or excusable, and which caused death. You'll see I'm now moving on to those same lesser includeds for count 2. To prove the crime of second-degree murder as a lesser crime of first-degree murder, the state must prove the following 3 elements beyond a reasonable doubt. 1. Robbie Tower is dead, and 2. The death was caused by the criminal act of Dima Tower. And 3, there was an unlawful killing of Robbie Tower by an act imminently dangerous to another and demonstrating a depraved mind without regard for human life. An act includes a series of related actions arising from and performed pursuant to a single design or purpose. An act is imminently dangerous to another and demonstrating a depraved mind if it is an act or series of acts that 1. A person of ordinary judgment would know is reasonably certain to kill or do serious bodily injury to another, and 2. Is done from ill will, hatred, spite, or an evil intent, and 3. Is of such a nature that the act itself indicates an indifference to human life. In order to convict of second-degree murder, it is not necessary for the state to prove the defendant had an intent to cause death. To prove the crime of manslaughter, a lesser crime of first-degree murder, the state must prove the following 2 elements beyond a reasonable doubt. 1. Robbie Tower is dead, and 2. Dima Tower intentionally committed an act or acts that caused the death of Robbie Tower. Every person has a duty to act reasonably towards others. If there is a violation of that duty without any conscious intention to harm, that violation is negligence. The defendant cannot be guilty of manslaughter by committing a mere negligent act, or if the killing was either justifiable or excusable homicide, as I have previously instructed you. In order to convict of manslaughter by act, it is not necessary for the state to prove that the defendant had an intent to cause death, only an intent to commit an act that was not merely negligent, justified, or excusable, and which caused the death. The defendant has entered a plea of not guilty. This means you must presume or believe the defendant is innocent. The presumption stays with the defendant as to each material allegation in the information through each stage of the trial, unless it has been overcome by the evidence to the exclusion of and beyond a reasonable doubt. To overcome the defendant's presumption of innocence, the state has the burden of proving the crimes with which the defendant is charged were committed, and that the defendant is the person who committed the crimes. The defendant is not required to present evidence or prove anything. Whenever the words reasonable doubt are used, you must consider the following. Proof beyond a reasonable doubt does not mean proof beyond all doubt. A reasonable doubt is not a mere possible doubt, speculative, imaginary, or forced doubt. Such a doubt must not influence you to return a verdict of not guilty if you have an abiding conviction of guilt. On the other hand, if, after carefully considering, comparing, and weighing all the evidence, there is not an abiding conviction of guilt, or if having a conviction is one which is not stable, but one which wavers and vacillates, then the charge is not proved beyond every reasonable doubt, and you must find the defendant not guilty because the doubt is reasonable. It is to the evidence introduced in this trial and to it alone that you are to look for that proof. A reasonable doubt as to the guilt of the defendant may arise from the evidence, conflict in the evidence, or the lack of evidence. If you have a reasonable doubt, you should find the defendant not guilty. If you have no reasonable doubt, you should find the defendant guilty. It is up to you to decide what evidence is reliable. You should use your common sense in deciding which is the best evidence and which evidence should not be relied upon in considering your verdict. You may find some of the evidence not reliable or less reliable than other evidence. You should consider how the witness acted, as well as what they said. Some things you should consider are 1. Did the witness seem to have an opportunity to see and know the things about which the witness testified? 2. Did the witness seem to have an accurate memory? 3. Was the witness honest and straightforward in answering the attorney's questions? 4. Did the witness have some interest in how the case should be decided? 5. Does the witness's testimony agree with the other testimony and other evidence in the case? Whether the state has met its burden of proof does not depend upon the number of witnesses it is called or upon the number of exhibits it is offered, but instead upon the nature and quality of the evidence presented. The fact that a witness is employed in law enforcement does not mean that his or her testimony deserves more or less consideration than that of any other witness. Expert witnesses are like other witnesses with one exception. The law permits an expert witness to give his or her opinion. However, an expert's opinion is reliable only when given on a subject about which you believe him or her to be an expert. Like other witnesses, you may believe or disbelieve all or any part of an expert's testimony. The defendant in this case has become a witness. You should apply the same rules to consideration of his testimony that you would apply to the testimony of the other witnesses. It is entirely proper for a lawyer to talk to a witness about what testimony the witness would give if called to the courtroom. The witness should not be discredited by talking to a lawyer about his or her testimony. You may rely upon your own conclusion about the credibility of any witness. A juror may believe or disbelieve all or any part of the evidence or testimony of any witness. Statements claimed to have been made by the defendant outside of court have been placed before you. Such statements should always be considered with caution and be weighed with great care to make certain they were freely and voluntarily made. If you conclude the defendant made the statement, you must also determine from the evidence whether the defendant's statement was freely and voluntarily made. In making this determination, you should consider the circumstances, including but not limited to 1. Whether when the defendant made the statements, he had been threatened in order to get him to make statements, and 2. Whether anyone had promised him anything in order to get him to make the statements. If you conclude the defendant made the out-of-court statements, but it was not freely and voluntarily made, you should disregard it. These are some general rules that apply to your discussion. You must follow these rules in order to return a lawful verdict. 1. You must follow the law as it is set out in these instructions. If you fail to follow the law, your verdict will be a miscarriage of justice. There is no reason for failing to follow the law in this case. All of us are depending upon you to make a wise and legal decision in this matter. 2. This case must be decided only upon the evidence that you have heard from the testimony of the witnesses and have seen in the form of the exhibits and evidence in these instructions. 3. This case must not be decided for or against anyone because you feel sorry for anyone or are angry at anyone. 4. Remember, the lawyers are not on trial. Your feelings about them should not influence your decision in this case. 5. Your duty is to determine if the defendant has been proven guilty or not in a court of the law. It is the judge's job to determine a proper sentence if the defendant is found guilty. 6. Whatever verdict you render must be unanimous. That is, each juror must agree to the same verdict. 7. Your verdict should not be influenced by feelings of prejudice, bias, or sympathy. Your verdict must be based on the evidence and on the law contained in these instructions. Deciding a verdict is exclusively your job. I cannot participate in that decision in any way. Please disregard anything I may have said or done that made you think I preferred one verdict over another. A separate crime is charged in each count of the charging document, and although they have been tried together, each crime and the evidence applicable to it must be considered separately, and a separate verdict returned as to each. A finding of guilty or not guilty as to one crime must not affect your verdict as to the other crimes charged. You may find the defendant guilty as charged in the charging document, or guilty of such lesser included crimes as the evidence may justify, or not guilty. If you return a verdict of guilty, it should be for the highest offense which has been proven beyond a reasonable doubt. If you find that no offense has been proven beyond a reasonable doubt, then of course your verdict must be not guilty. Only one verdict may be returned as to each of the crimes charged. The verdict must be unanimous. That is, all of you must agree to the same verdict. The verdict must be in writing, and for your convenience, the necessary form of verdict has been prepared for you. It reads as follows. You don't have the verdict form. We only have one. I have it here, and I know we're a bit distant, so you can't see it, but it's when you get it, you'll see it's titled State of Florida v. Dima Tower, and has a case number. It's titled Verdict. It gives you instructions to check one as to count one, check only one, it says, as to count 1, 2, and 3, and a place for it to be dated and signed by the foreperson. And we'll give that to you. This last jury instruction in your packet, you can put that aside. I'm going to read that to you after the closing arguments. Members of the jury, the attorneys will now present their final arguments to you. Please remember that what the attorneys say is not the evidence nor your instructions on the law. However, do listen closely to their arguments as they are intended to aid you in understanding the case. Each side will have an equal time, but the state is entitled to divide their time between an opening argument and a rebuttal argument after the defense has given its closing argument. State, are you ready to proceed? Yes. You may do so when you're ready.
Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Back on Monday, which probably seems like an eternity to you by now, the judge talked about the two things that the state has to do in its case. It has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that a crime or crimes were committed in the murders of Robbie and Jennifer Tower and the fleeing to elude, and that the defendant who sits here in the courtroom before you, Dima Tower, is a person who committed those crimes. I think that those things have been proven to you fully during this trial. The only thing that we should talk about today, and that's important for you to focus on, is the defendant's intention. Because in opening statements, defense counsel told you that he was going to argue for a lesser included crime, a crime of manslaughter. So let's think about the instructions that you have in front of you and what they say and why this is not manslaughter and it's not second-degree murder, and it completely and fully meets all the elements of first-degree premeditated murder. I'm having a problem. I don't know why this isn't working correctly.
All right, let's take a short break. We'll bring IT to try to solve that, okay? Please leave your notepads face down, writing implements on top.
No.
And don't discuss anything related to your jury service, okay?
Why? Why are we taking a break? This lady. No, absolutely not, Cindy. No. He needs to understand what he did was wrong. I mean, they could ship him home and put him over there in a prison, but trust me, he's going to like it here better.
You radio Carl that we're ready to begin?
Okay, what are we doing here, peeps?
And how do we know that? We know that because the defendant told us so himself, over and over and over. Yesterday afternoon, on the stand, he told you that himself. Repeatedly to the detectives, and then again, right here in the courtroom where you're sitting today. So let's talk a little bit about premeditation and the definition. Now, back on Monday, I was asking you a lot of questions about what factors should you think about when we're talking about premeditation, and you probably thought, what is this woman talking about? Because you didn't have the facts. You didn't know what went on in this particular case. And I was asking you questions about what would a person do before committing a premeditated act if you didn't know what was going on in their mind, but you had to look at their actions and determine what was premeditation. We talked about what would a person do while the crime was being committed that would signal premeditation. And we talked about what would a person do after the crime was committed to signal premeditation. And let's think about what we learned in the last 3 days. What did the defendant do before he committed this crime? He chose his weapon from the knife block in the kitchen, and he took it into the bedroom. He armed himself before the encounter with his parents. All of that leaves plenty of time for reflection, for reflective thought. And we also talked about if there are prior difficulties between the parties, does that lend itself to thinking about premeditation?
No, I know they can't
already
send him
angry.
home. I know
The defendant
that.
said,
I was just playing.
Does that lend itself to premeditation? Is that one of the factors you should consider?
But I bet he'd like to go back. I don't think he wanted to come here to begin
And then what
with.
did the defendant do at the time he was committing the crime, when he was stabbing his parents, by a conservative estimate, 140 times? We talked about, do the nature of the wounds that are being inflicted, do they show that the defendant had a conscious intent to kill? Well, we know the kind of wounds that he inflicted on the tracheas of both parents, and on the multiple stab wounds, especially to the face, the head, the back of the neck, especially the throat, the carotid arteries, and the jugular veins, the most vulnerable, tender part of any human being. We also talked about, is it important to consider the number of wounds inflicted? And we know that there were, again, over 140 wounds, 79 to Robbie, and, 79 to Jennifer, and more than 68 to Robbie. What else, at the time that the crime is being committed, signals that this was premeditated? What about the fact that when he lost the first knife, he went back into the kitchen and got himself another knife so that he could, as he said, finish what he started? Because he started it deliberately and consciously. He wanted to finish that job. And so he armed himself with another weapon. What else did he do during the crime that shows premeditation? After he killed his father, he walked outdoors, and yesterday he told us that he had the knife in his hand when he went outside. And he led his mother back into the death scene and sat her on the couch, and in his own words, delivered a manifesto. He said it was a monologue. And all the time she's sitting there, and he is planning to kill her. There was no other way to think about it. What else did we talk about during jury selection? We talked about what might signal premeditation after the crime is committed. We know that the defendant washed the second knife and placed it back in the knife block because it was collected as evidence, and we can actually see the little bit of blood in a close-up photo. It was also sent to the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, and Ms. Webster told you that there was presumptive blood on both weapons. After he took the knife and placed it back in the knife block after he gave it a cursory wash, he fled from the police. You saw 30 long minutes. It's probably boring, but I thought it was important to impress upon you just how long it took for the police to apprehend the defendant. How long he consciously fled from the police and showed a consciousness of guilt because he knew what he did was wrong. And we know that finally, when he was apprehended, he gave a full admission to consciously deciding to kill. That's premeditation all day long. So let's look at the instructions. Killing with premeditation is killing after consciously deciding to do so. The decision must be present in the mind at the time of the killing. The law doesn't fix the exact period of time that must pass between forming the premeditated intent to kill and the actual killing. But the period of time has to be long enough to allow reflection, long enough for the mind to come up with the idea, the plan, the decision, whatever you want to call it, long enough to allow reflection by the defendant, and it has to be formed before the killing actually takes place. The question of premeditation is a question for you. It's a question that you have to answer based upon what you heard these last 3 days in the courtroom and the evidence that you've seen. And only you can decide if this was a premeditated act. It's sufficient proof of premeditation if the circumstances of the killing and the conduct of the accused during the killing convince you beyond a reasonable doubt of the existence of premeditation at the time of the killing. Well, let's talk about why this is not manslaughter and why this is certainly not second-degree murder. Let's start with second-degree murder because that's the first of the lesser included. That comes right after first-degree murder and is then followed by manslaughter. And if you want to follow along with me with the jury instructions, you have them before you. If not, you can just listen to what I have to say. Second-degree murder has to be proven by the state beyond a reasonable doubt, and it has to prove the three following elements. Jennifer and Robbie Tower are dead. Yes, we know that. The death was caused by the criminal act of Dima Tower, their adopted child. There was an unlawful killing of Jennifer and Robbie Tower by an act imminently dangerous to another and demonstrating a depraved mind without regard for human life. Is that what happened? Of course it is. It goes on to say that an act includes a series of related actions arising from and performed pursuant to a single design or purpose. An act is imminently dangerous, it goes on to define to another and demonstrating a depraved mind if it is an act or series of acts that a person of ordinary judgment would know is reasonably certain to kill or do serious bodily injury to another. 2, the act is done from ill will, hatred, spite, or evil intent. And 3, the act or actions are of such a nature that they indicate an indifference to human life. All of those are true. That's exactly what Dima Tower did. But in order to convict of second-degree murder, it is not necessary for the state to prove the defendant had an intent to cause death. That is what's missing from second-degree murder. Dima Tower had every intent to cause the death of both Robbie and Jennifer Tower. He told you so himself. Why isn't this manslaughter? To prove the crime of manslaughter, the jury instructions tell you, the state has to prove the following two elements beyond a reasonable doubt. First, Jennifer and Robbie Tower are dead. And second, Dima Tower intentionally committed an act or acts that caused the death of Jennifer Tower and Robbie Tower. What's missing?
Premeditation.
Premeditation. The jury instruction goes on to say that in order to convict of manslaughter by act, it is not necessary for the state to prove that the defendant had an intent to cause death. Only an intent to commit an act that was not merely negligent, justified, excusable, or which caused death. But we know from the defendant's own mouth that he had every intention to cause death. He told us so over and over and over again. So the lesser includeds are statutorily mandated to accompany the jury instructions on first-degree murder.
Slow.
But they do not rise. They don't even come close to describing or meeting the elements of what Dima Tower did to his parents on August 31st, 2023. He sat in that car and thought about killing them, walked into his house, went into his bedroom, came out, grabbed the knife out of the kitchen, and walked into the bedroom and started stabbing his father.
What?
This is a clear-cut case of first-degree murder. So we talked to
What, is it too fast? Man, she talks so slow. Oh my God. I could have ran around the block like 10 times and I can't run. By the time she gets her point out. Is it too fast? I'll slow it down. Why? I don't know why you said my name. Because I was right about the premeditation. I watch a lot of crime. It's because I get bored. All right, let's. Yeah, that's what I figured. Okay, is it too fast? Because she's slow. She's really slow.
detectives on September 1st of 2023, and Detective St. Jean and Detective Chippendale asked him a number of questions.
Perfect.
What do you think about that?
Oh, right.
I don't like the situation. I don't like the people I'm with. So I'm just gonna kill them.
I just drank a whole.
That's what he thought about before
We're good.
he killed his parents. That was his plan. You don't need a diagram. You don't need a journal with your thoughts written down. You don't need a flow chart. You don't need a bullet point list to premeditate the killing of your parents. All it takes is long enough time to reflect, to engage in reflective thought. And that's exactly what he did. I don't like the situation. I don't like the people I'm with, so I'm just gonna kill him. Did you guys talk at all? And here, I think Detective Chippendale is referring to what happened when the defendant brought his mom back in from outside when she was trying to alert the neighbor and try to get some help. So the detectives asked, did you guys talk at all? Yeah, the defendant responded. I tried to talk to her. How did that conversation go? It was a monologue. So did you stab her already at that point? After I finished what I have to say. He's giving a monologue, talking to his mother in the house. Plenty of time for reflective thought. Again, during that interview that you watched, and I urge you, ladies and gentlemen, to watch it again. You'll have an opportunity to take the most of the evidence back with you, and you can listen to that videotape and audio tape recording. It's available for you.
God, why would
so last night, you're sitting in your car, and you just came up with this, that you're going to do something now? Defendant said, no, it came before that. Detective says, after work? No, it was before that. I had those thoughts before yesterday. What, days, months? No, like recently. Reflective thought. Later on in the conversation, the detectives ask, was last night the first time you actually thought about killing your parents? No. And yesterday, the last question that I asked, when you were sitting in your car on August 31st, did you decide to kill your parents before you walked into the house? Yes.
Now, I want to go to the more, but now, but I'm going to talk about the don't tell me about what you keep telling me about this. Okay, I'll show you the pleading room. No, we listened to that, and my husband noticed someone screamed and banged on the door, ringing the doorbell, screaming, and he felt. Took me a second to register what was going on. And we were trying to find, our upstairs, go to the door, and the person's gone. Thank you. 911 was.
And this is what law enforcement found when they got to Jonna Walton's house. A blood trail leading up to her home, and at her door, more blood dripping while she rang the doorbell and screamed for help. And as she was out there, the defendant wanted to finish what he started, so he let her back in the house. And then, after he finished what he started, he came outside, covered, according to Officer Regakis, with blood. And he just nonchalantly got in his car and drove away, covered with his parents' blood. He led the police on a chase for about a half an hour, even at one point endangering other people in the community by going into the northbound lane.
He was on the highway, lady.
And finally, when Sarasota County disabled his car, the stop sticks, he ran into the woods. And we had Officer Regakis get on the stand and show you, trace out for you, the flight path of the defendant from way down in the southeastern corner of the Northport City environs, all the way to I-75, south on I-75, and then he backtracked and drove all the way up to almost the very end of what this map shows in the upper left-hand corner, where he abandoned his car and fled into the woods. And this is what the crime scene and the detectives found at 1240 Nellicote Road. This is the carnage that they found inside the house. Blood everywhere, on the door, in the foyer, on the furniture, on the walls, on Dima Tower's parents. And where this crime started, in the bedroom, where Mr. Tower was sound asleep next to his wife when the defendant attacked them while they were sleeping in their bed.
Oh.
And you can see the signs of struggle. Looks like Robbie Tower put up quite a fight as best as he could. You can see that there was a brief altercation over on that north wall, and again on the wall leading into the living room. Blood everywhere. The defendant was determined to finish what he started. Even when he lost the first knife, he was determined to finish what he started. So he goes into the kitchen and grabs another knife, and then washes up afterwards. And this is a work product of Dima Tower. This is what he did to his father and to his mother because he didn't like them as people. You also heard testimony that the defendant was finally seen early the following morning after he had been at large for about 9 hours. He was captured on video at the Shell station around about 7:30 in the morning. He actually was blasé enough to walk into the Shell station and buy a bottle of tea.
Well, he was thirsty.
And finally, he was arrested shortly thereafter, around about 8 o'clock, when the Venice Police Department apprehended him, still at the Shell station. And this is what the defendant did to his mother. And I have not put up all the autopsy photos. I think you've seen enough autopsy photos and bloodshed, but this is what he did to his mother after he led her back in the house. Stabbed her multiple times in the face, the throat, and the back. And his father, mutilated to the point where Dr. Vega was able to count 6 separate and distinct perforations, incisions, whatever you want to call them, into Robbie Tower's trachea, his larynx. And you heard the testimony of Dr. Vega yesterday, who told you that the cause of death for Jennifer Tower was perforations of multiple small and large blood vessels, including her carotid artery and jugular vein. Same with Robbie Tower, perforations of multiple small and large vessels, including the carotid and subclavian arteries, due to multiple stab wounds. And Dr. Vega told you about the function of the carotid arteries and the jugular veins, how those are the major vessels that take the blood to the head and back down to the body. And that's where the defendant attacked his parents, in the most vulnerable, fragile places in the human body. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to ask you to think about the jury instructions and what you heard on Monday about sympathy. You saw the defendant sobbing here in the courtroom. We had to actually take a break. I think it was on Wednesday during the defense's opening statement. And then again yesterday when the defendant took the stand. He put on quite a display of emotion.
Overruled. Let's move on from this, okay?
Get over
He put
it,
on quite a
lady.
display of emotion. Hold him accountable for what he did. You may not have sympathy enter into your deliberations. Your job is to look at the evidence and see if the evidence comports with the law of first-degree murder. You may not have any sympathy for Robbie or Jennifer Tower or the defendant. And that's hard to ask human beings. And you may even have sympathy for all three of those people. But they cannot influence your decision. That cannot influence your decision. You have to compartmentalize that sympathy if you have any. Because the law says that you must judge the defendant on the evidence and the law. Hold him accountable for what he did, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Vince, when you're ready.
Like we talked about at the beginning of this case, Mr. Tower's words still hold truth. It has a lot to do with everything that I've been through and everything that I've seen. And you've heard a lot of evidence in this case, and frankly, a lot of it was not disputed. The facts and circumstances of the tragic events of August the 31st of 2023 are not materially in dispute. Robbie Tower is deceased. Jennifer Tower is deceased. Those things occurred because of acts by Dima Tower. That is not in dispute. What is in dispute is whether or not Dima Tower had the rational, conscious intent to commit the homicides prior to them occurring. That is what is in dispute in this case, and that is what we have been asking you to focus on and not get sidetracked into different areas. The judge has instructed you that you have to presume Mr. Tower to be innocent before you start. We kind of dialed that back a little bit and said, look, before we even start this trial, I want to make sure that we're clear about what we're asking of you. And what we're asking of you is to make a decision about one simple thing. And it may not seem that simple, and it may seem very complicated to get inside the head of somebody else. And it is. It's complicated. The state has the burden of proving these crimes beyond and to the exclusion of every reasonable doubt. I know the state will say that most of what we've been talking about is trying to invoke sympathy for Mr. Tower. That is not the case. It is important, if you're making a decision about somebody's state of mind, that you are exposed to them so that you can make an informed decision. There's a lot of talk in the jury instructions about people of ordinary judgment making decisions. And what the judge has instructed you is that it's up to you to decide what evidence is reliable. You should use your common sense in deciding what is the best evidence and which evidence should be relied on in considering your verdict. We talked during jury selection about the fact that you don't leave your personal life experiences at the door. You bring those in because they form your common sense. And you can make the determination as to whether or not it's significant that Mr. Tower couldn't look me in the eye, couldn't look the state attorney in the eye, couldn't look the detectives in the eye at any point in time. That is something that is common for certain people. And when we're talking about individualized consciousness of guilt, every individual reflects differently. Every individual thinks differently. So if we're talking about the fixed time for reflective thought, it's important to consider all of the factors as to whether or not Mr. Tower had sufficient time for him to make reflective thought, given his history. Whether or not the killing was done after consciously deciding to do it. I would submit that Mr. Tower doesn't have the ability.
No, I'm going to sustain the objection. And disregard the last statement by defense counsel.
The question of premeditation is a question of fact to be determined by you from the evidence. And the judge instructs you, again, to use your common sense. Think about what evidence is reliable and what evidence isn't reliable. As Mr. Tower indicated, when there was discussions with law enforcement, he was concerned that there were misstatements, misunderstandings, which would be something you would understand from somebody who was in foster care in a foreign country, who didn't know the language before he got here, who learned the language himself by small talk, who was obviously awkward and uncomfortable. You can make a determination as far as all of those things, as to what weight you put on each piece of evidence and what weight you assign. Because like we talked about from the beginning, each of you individually has a verdict. And collectively, as a jury, you make a decision. But it is important for each and every one of you to have your voices heard. It's important that you take time to deliberate and make a determination as far as what culpability Mr. Tower has. I would suggest to you that the evidence presented leads to a manslaughter conviction. And we would ask that you come back with that verdict. Thank you.
State rebuttal when you're ready.
Oh. That guy's like, finally, I'm done. I'm done here.
Defense counsel argued that defendant told you yesterday, and he did, that this has a lot to do with everything I've been through and everything I've seen. You've heard no evidence, zero evidence of the defendant and what he saw and what he's been through. You are not
burden shifting.
Because nobody would love to talk about
no
it.
obligation or burden on the defense to do anything. You may continue.
The defense has no burden. But when you hear arguments that defy logic, you can reject the arguments by the defense. The defendant doesn't have to prove anything in this case, but he did. He proved everything in this case when he took that stand yesterday, and he said, I was sitting in the car thinking about it before I went into the house. I thought about killing my parents before I went into the house. So again, does the defense have to prove anything? No. Is it my burden? Yes. And I urge you to hold the state to its burden. But you have heard no evidence, absolutely no evidence about what the defendant has seen and what the defendant has been through. And that is not burden shifting. That is simply a fact. The defendant described this as rage, but not rage that developed suddenly from a sudden event, some altercation with his parents, something that would make an ordinary, reasonable person lose self-control. This wasn't something sudden that happened that made Dima Tower lose his normal self-control and go in there and stab his parents. As I said earlier, his parents were fast asleep in their bed. They posed absolutely no danger to him. They did nothing to upset him or provoke his rage that night. I don't know where his rage was fostered, and neither do you. But he had rage for his parents when he was sitting out in that car, and he acted on that rage. This was not manslaughter. This was not a crime of passion. He sat out in his car and thought about it. And again, you're going to hear instructions about speculation. They're in your jury instructions. On Monday night, you took an oath to well and truly try this case based on the law and based on the facts, not on speculation. In fact, the jury instructions forbid you to speculate about the defendant's past or what he's seen or what he went through when his mother died. That's pure speculation, and you may not do that. Do not let yourself be persuaded because the defendant tried to and was prevented, correctly so, from talking about his past. Because that is not why we're here. We're here because the defendant killed his parents. The law doesn't change for people to fit their situations. Whether you're an executive of Coca-Cola or whether you're a kid from a bad neighborhood, whether you graduated from Northport High School or you graduated from Harvard, the law is the same for every single person. And what he went through when he was a kid has nothing to do with this crime that he committed.
Oh, but it barely does.
Don't be persuaded that because the defendant had a horrible childhood and he ended up in an orphanage, that he's somehow justified in doing what he did. Those photographs say everything. There's no justification for that. I'm asking you to think about the facts and think about the law, and only that, because there is no room for sympathy or speculation in your job. I'm asking you to hold the defendant accountable for what he did. I'm asking you to find him guilty of killing Robbie Tower and Jennifer Tower after premeditation. I'm asking you to hold him guilty of first-degree murder on both counts, and also for fleeing to elude law enforcement officer with lights and siren. I thank you for your patience and your attention.
That concludes the closing arguments. Folks, as you might know, I think we talked about this at jury selection. We chose to have two alternates because we were going for the whole week. If someone got sick, we would have them fill in. Do you folks remember your numbers from day one? Remember you had a paddle in your hand? I'm going to try to see if we can identify our alternates by number. They were number 45, initials SN, is that right? Okay. And you're number 50, JP. Where are you? Do you folks have any personal belongings back in the jury room? Yes? While I'm going over this last instruction, why don't you go with Carl, the bailiff, and gather your personal belongings. When you're done, Carl, give me about maybe a minute or two. We'll bring you back in. You can just come over to the side. You've spent a whole week with these folks. You can say bye to them as they're walking out in transition. I'm going to speak to you just for a bit before I send you folks home. Okay, the alternates. Okay, everybody can remain seated while the alternates head out with Carl. For the rest of you, you all comprise our jury. So you can turn to that last jury instruction in your packet. I'm going to read that to you. In just a moment, you will be taken to the jury room by the bailiff. The first thing you should do is choose a foreperson who will preside over your deliberations. The foreperson should see to it that your discussions are carried on.
You're right, Cindy. She said that on purpose. Because she knew that was that's probably just making him boil on the inside. Making him boil because she knew he wanted to tell his side of the story. It's just wrong. Just wrong.
Your deliberations. These communication rules apply until I discharge you at the end of the case. If you become aware of any violation of these instructions or any other instruction I have given in the case, you must tell me by giving a note to the bailiff. Many of you may have cell phones, tablets, or laptops, or other electronic devices in the jury room.
Computer.
The rules do not allow you to keep those or bring those into the jury room. The rules do not allow you to bring your phones or any of those types of electronic devices into the jury room. Kindly leave those devices with the bailiff. These devices will be safeguarded by the bailiff while you deliberate. I think what Carl will do is he'll put a cart outside your jury room. You can just, if you want to make a call to a loved one that I know you well, turn your phone to silent or off. That includes Apple Watches, electronic watches, iPads, any electronics. You can turn those to off or silent. Just put them on the cart outside the jury room, okay? If you need to communicate with me for any reason, send a note to the bailiff. If you have voted, do not disclose the vote in the note. If you have a question, I will talk with the attorneys here in court before I answer, so it may take some time. You may continue your deliberations while you wait for my answer. I will answer any questions if I can in writing or orally here in open court. During the trial, items were received into evidence as exhibits. You may examine whatever exhibits you think will help you in your...
I'm going to mute that because we already know what they say. But I totally agree with you, Cindy. What he did was wrong, but he should have been able to talk. He said he wanted to tell what happened before he even left home. Why? Why couldn't he? What would have been the problem? The jury's still going to find him guilty. It's just a bunch of crap. Y'all, this chicken noodle soup is off the chain. I wish I'd have gotten more, like 2 whole chickens. Oh my God. I would have been so, I mean, there's a lot of chicken, but I like lots of chicken in my soup. All right.
Carl, okay.
Thank you.
So the other jurors can go by.
Oh. All right, so we'll just sit here and chit chat for 2 hours. I think that's how long it took them to come back, right? 2 hours? Yeah, we'll just sit here and chit chat for a couple hours.
We'll recess until we have a question or verdict. Please leave your cell phone with the clerk. Please stay within 15 or so
Sound
minutes.
good?
So all,
is that okay with you guys?
Folks in the audience, we're not going to individually, of course, call any of you. If you want to be present, leave your number with the attorneys, and they'll assist you and let you know when we're back in court. Okay. All right. We'll be adjourned until we have a question or verdict. Folks, thank you.
Exactly.
If you're upset or happy.
Exactly. My point when I just said that. A bunch of crap. You know, Grant, he's going to be found guilty no matter what, but I think maybe he should get a new trial and have a lawyer that wants to defend him. And maybe he might be able to get like insanity, like something. Why couldn't he get insanity? So I just wanted to remind everyone that tomorrow I am going to be covering the Logan, the one from here in Iowa, the one out there in Cedar Rapids. I am going to cover that tomorrow. But I don't know what time because I have to go to the doctor at 10:30. But that's okay. That way it gives me some time so we can fast forward through the breaks and stuff. So... all right, y'all. Are we ready? Are we ready? All right, here we go. Logan Kimpton, yeah. But I think I'll, yeah, like he should have had a different plea, like a different charge, like insanity or something. And then he doesn't understand the laws. He don't speak good English. The detectives were speaking to him, and didn't he tell him, I don't understand? He don't look ready. Yes, his lawyer is pathetic. He put him on the stand and wouldn't let him talk about his past, wouldn't ask him any questions, and then only asked him maybe 4 or 5 questions. Come on. Give that boy a chance to talk. That's all he ever wanted. I think nobody ever listened to him. I think I might do a video on him about his before, if I can find anything. Granted, what he did was wrong. You can't kill somebody, but...
See you, everyone. Good afternoon. 2 more minutes, I guess. All right, Deputy, I'm told we have a verdict. Is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Wow, that 2 hours.
We have everybody present. Are both sides ready to bring the jurors back in?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor. All right, let me just caution everybody in the audience. We're going to respect the verdict, whatever it is, by this jury. So please, similar to what we talked about earlier, no outward signs of emotion or comments. We need to be professional, respect the jury. So if you can't handle it, then I need you to remove yourself kindly, okay? All right, let's bring the jurors in.
God, he is terrible about that. People have emotions, sir. People get emotional. I'd hate to be his wife. Oh my God. If I were to cry, he'd be like, stop crying. Why are you crying? Don't show emotion. Funny thing is I go home every day. The judge. My opinion only.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Everybody may be seated. Members of the jury, I'm told that you reached a verdict. Is that correct?
Yes.
Can the foreperson hand it to the bailiff? I take a look at it next to make sure that it's executed, signed, and dated, etc. And then I'll hand it to the clerk.
Let me slow it down. It's like really fast.
Clerk, can you please hand this to the clerk? And the clerk is going to publish the verdict.
In the Circuit Court of the 12th Judicial Circuit in and for Sarasota County, Florida, State of Florida versus Dima Tower, case number 2023 CF 8812 MC. Verdict. We, the jury, find as follows as to count 1, victim Jennifer Tower. The defendant is guilty of murder in the first degree as charged. We, the jury, find as follows as to count 2, victim Robbie Tower. The defendant is guilty of murder in the first degree as charged. We, the jury, find as follows as to count 3. The defendant is guilty of fleeing to elude a law enforcement officer as charged. So say we all this 14th day of November 2025, signed 4%.
Members of the jury, there's something we do after every verdict. It's called polling the jury. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start in the back. I'll go left to right, then I'll come forward and go left to right, okay? So to the gentleman in the back left, is this your verdict and the verdict of the jury as a whole?
Yes.
Oh, well, I don't think. Cindy, you're funny. No, I forgot what I was gonna say. I can't remember. But my soup was really good. I put scallions in it instead of onion. Oh my God, I should have got corn.
Of everybody, I want to thank you for your service. We have different types of trials. This was a longer trial, although as I mentioned, not terribly long. We do have those that are longer. We asked a lot of you. You came in Monday on a week with a holiday. You were here all week, early in the morning. So we all truly appreciate your service. The system cannot function without you folks. And I talked a lot about that on Monday. So thank you. You have a right as a juror not to discuss your jury service with anybody. That's a right you have as a juror. It would take a court order to compel it. I haven't seen it in my career done. You also have the ability to speak to whoever you want. That's a right you have as a juror as well. No one can prevent you from speaking. I know it's a big ask, again, Monday through Friday. I hope the experience was good for you. We try to be as efficient as possible with your time and not get you in and out as efficiently as possible. So again, thank you. Your service is done. What I'm going to do after you leave is I'm going to talk to the parties. We'll discuss setting a sentencing date. I don't know if we're going to do that today, if we're going to do it down the road. You're welcome to stay. You're welcome to leave. You have no further obligation to the court. I think it gets you out of jury service for a year. So there's some good news. But again, thank you. Make sure you take all your personal belongings with you when you leave. If you want to find out what happened or what happens, you can give my judicial assistant a call, Jennifer. Her number's on the board, I believe, in your jury room. You can give her a call later today and find out what the next steps are, okay? Thank you so much, everybody, for your service. Can everybody please stand? Our jurors are now exiting the courtroom.
God, why am I standing?
All right, let's take I'm going to take a 2-minute break. I'm going to go thank the jurors for their service in the jury room. Why don't we, let's leave Mr. Let's handcuff him. Let's leave him in here for now. Why don't you talk among yourselves when you want to do sentencing, how you want that to take place. I'd also like the attorneys to please approach and take a look at the verdict form before it's filed, okay? I'll be back in a couple of minutes. Oh, they might have unplugged it? Okay. Let me have the state and the defense come up. You can take a look at the names that are on here.
Oh, Ms. Torres, may I go back into this courtroom?
Sure.
I don't like that lady.
Ms. Torres? Yes. Please, give me a moment.
Yes? Let's leave it where it is, yeah, thanks. Why don't you come take a look and write down the names, and then you could find out if these are folks that want to be heard. Let me just to go through it. It says Warren Rhines on this one. It looks like 2 people are there. Do you know who that is? All right, are they going to want to be heard? Okay, there's someone with the name Sean Tower. Is that someone that wants to be heard? Why don't I find out who these folks are? And let's okay. All right, if I can have Warren Rhines, please unmute. All right, you're unmuted. Can you please tell me who you folks are?
Yes, I'm talking about that. Both of them, both women.
All right, so we have aunt and uncle. Do you wish to be heard today, this afternoon at the sentencing hearing?
I do not. No, thank you.
Okay. All right, so we have an aunt and an uncle that have been here on Zoom but do not wish to be heard. All right, can Sean Tower please unmute and turn your video on?
Sorry, Your Honor, I don't have a camera hooked up. No, I'm Robbie Tower's brother. I don't wish to be heard.
Okay. All right, how about, there's someone with the name Gladys that's on the Zoom.
Hi, I am a friend of the family and I do not wish to be heard.
You were in the courtroom this week, weren't you?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, friend of the family does not wish to be heard. So we have no one on Zoom that wishes to speak. I have no preference on order. Why don't we, any objection to the state proceeding first, Mr. Gilman?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, state, please call your first witness up, or person up to the, why don't we use the witness box, okay?
Yes. State calls Phil Tower.
You have you stand here, you're going to face the clerk, no, face this clerk, raise your right hand.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Okay. That's okay.
Behind you?
Yes. You're okay.
Give this to Mr. Tower. Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Tower. Can you please tell us your full name and spell your last name?
Philip Tower, Tower.
Okay. Would you like to address the court?
Hey, y'all, I'll be on my
Court.
phone. Leah's whining. She has to
And-
go outside.
Particularly.
Right. You,
Whatever
not
it is that
addre-
you
yeah.
want to say, sir.
Oh, I just want to talk to Dima.
Hold on.
No.
Whatever it is that you wish to say, direct it at me.
Oh, okay.
You can tell me what you want to say and what you want me to know. This is a sentencing where you can give the court input, okay?
Okay.
Of course, Mr. Tower, the defendant is the courtroom and will hear what you have to say, okay?
Right. I just wanted the court to know that Dima didn't just,
Take your time.
he didn't just kill Robbie and Jennifer. He killed a part of all of us. And there isn't a person over there that doesn't hate him. And we want him to suffer. And I just like him, one more thing to say. I have a lot of things to say, but you probably wouldn't like it. I want him to, when he's, Dima, look at me.
No, sir, go ahead and direct your comments to me, okay?
I would like him to change his name while he's in jail. I don't want him to use my name anymore. I don't want him to be associated with us. And a lot of things I want to say to you, to him.
Take your
I don't
time.
believe you'd allow it, so I'm just going to leave it at that. I don't think I could go any further than
I don't know, Ms. Fadlick, if you wanted to ask him any questions.
No, Mr. Tower, this is really a chance to talk about your loss and what Jennifer and Robbie meant to you and the loss in your life. So I think that's better than right now retribution, because the judge will take care of that.
Yeah, I understand. I can't put into words.
Why don't you tell me this, how is Jennifer or Robbie related to you?
Robbie's my son.
Your son?
Yes.
Tell me about your son and your daughter-in-law.
Well, they were just great people. They were honest. They were religious. Cared about everybody. They would give you the shirt off their back. They'd help you. They were big in the church. They went on pilgrimages. You know what I'm saying? They went to different kind of pilgrimages and whatever. They went, and that's how they met Dima. They just wanted to help somebody. They couldn't have children of their own. They saw Dima. They figured they'd give him a chance at life. And that's how we repaid them. There wasn't anybody that didn't like them. And it's just a total waste of good people. I don't know what else I can say that build them up any more than that. I don't have to. We'll miss it.
Thank you, Mr. Tower.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tower.
Take your time.
Thank you.
The state would like to call Michael Burgoon. Do you need this? Okay, thank you.
Stand here, raise your right hand.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, so, come this way. And the right hand after me.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Will you tell us your full name and spell your last name?
I'm Michael Burgoon, Burgoon.
And how do you know Robbie and Jennifer Tower?
Jennifer Tower is my sister, and of course, Robbie was my brother-in-law.
Okay, and is Jennifer younger or older than you?
A couple years older.
A couple years older, so
Okay.
she was your big sister?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Would you like to talk to Judge Krug about how your life has been affected by the loss of your sister and brother-in-law?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Your Honor, I'd like to thank the court for allowing me to speak today. My name is Michael Burgoon. Jennifer Tower is my sister, and Rob Tower is my brother-in-law. For just over 2 years, I've had to try to process daily that my sister Jennifer and Rob are no longer here. Jennifer was much more than my sister. She was my #1 supporter and best friend. Growing up together, we would play video games, hang out on Venice Beach and Siesta Key, and often race go-karts at Pelican Pizza in Inglewood, or just simply hang out. As we grew older and moved on in life and got married daily, one of us would call the other or send a text just to say I love you. There wasn't anything I went through in life that I didn't reach out to her for her thoughts or her advice or how she thought I should handle it or what she may do if she was in my shoes. Even through my 20s to just over 2.5 years ago, I'd call her because I knew she would always answer the phone. And even if I didn't like what she would say, she would answer with honest and loving. I would also reach out to Rob daily. Rob was the very definition of what a brother-in-law is. We shared the same sense of humor. Jennifer would often get on us for acting like teenage boys. I would often call Rob just to get some advice from a guy's point of view, or if he had a question about the Bible. Rob had a very vast knowledge of it and would talk to me, or if I was struggling with something, he would often tell me a verse in the Bible that dealt with what I was going through and help. Rob was the person who officiated my second wedding. There has been no greater hurt or pain in life than losing them. There isn't a second of the day that goes by that I don't think about them. Nobody should have to go through the hurt, emotional burden, grief, and just loss of direction in life that losing them has caused. They were the true north in the compass of my life. They were full of so much love, not only with me and their family. Jennifer loved our 2 older sisters, Lori and Lisa, and her mother, Cindy, and her son. Rob always spoke about the love for his parents and family and the love he had for his son. Our lives were much better because they were in ours. Sadly now, because of the events of October 31st, 2023, they were selfishly taken from our families. That void can never be filled, and for me personally, going through 2 counseling professionals still has not helped me out. Daily, I feel a pain and hurt that can't be described. I want to believe that they're just busy, and any second, my phone will ring and I'll hear that, "Hey, Michael, what's up, brother?" that Jennifer would so lovingly say, knowing full well that that night, hearing that will never happen again. It's an emotional trauma that for the rest of my life, I'll have to work through and try to process with the help of counseling and family because it's not something that will go away. I hope and pray that today brings some closures for our families. Grief is a journey with no time limit. And Jennifer and Rob, I love you and will live daily to honor your memory. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. The state calls Rich Pollock.
You solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Good afternoon, Mr. Pollock.
Good afternoon.
Will you tell us your full name and spell your last name?
Richard Pollock, Pollock.
Will you tell Judge Krug how Robbie and Jennifer were part of your life?
Yes. I wrote a brief statement. At the beginning of this trial, we were told and we heard that the defendant say that this was all an act of rage. By saying so, he may feel that this helps to alleviate his responsibility in some way, but it doesn't. What he calls rage is nothing more than a pitiful attempt at an excuse to try to explain away the atrocities that he committed. This wasn't rage. This is all the result of a series of calculated decisions that he made that night. Robbie and Jennifer Tower, or as we affectionately called them, Rob and Jen Towerski, or Robbie and Miss Jen Tar girls, had a huge impact, not only on mine and my family's lives, but countless people here and around the world that they ministered to and shared the love and teachings of Christ with. Rob and Jen were show-up people. The people that showed up to help and weren't afraid to get dirty or put in the work to help a friend or anyone really. They were people who loved fully, and we loved them for it. It was Rob and Jen who showed up to teach my daughter Gigi to ride a bike when I couldn't. It was Rob who showed up to put my Christmas lights up after I fell off the roof and Jen volunteered into. The list goes on. They had a light in them that burned brightly for Christ, for each other, and for people. They were truly the people who would give you the shirt off their backs if you needed it and expected nothing in return, and not just their shirts. I remember them once giving one of their cars to a family that needed it. That's who they were. They offered the same gift to Dima, a gift of agape love. They gave, and he took and took. He was unwilling to receive it unless it was on his terms. He says he holds in such high esteem the way of life in Ukraine and that the man should rule over his family with some sort of an iron fist and that his wife must be subservient to him. But I would like to remind him in the court that the same way of life relegated him ending up in an orphanage where no one cared. As he put it, a nobody from nowhere. Rob and Jennifer chose to put Christ first and to love him above each other, but then to love each other above all and second only to that. They treated each other equally after only God and each other. They chose to love Dima and to bring him into their lives. They wanted to make him a somebody and gave him their name. I remember they were so excited. I remember how proud Rob was when Dima first became an American citizen. So many things that he did that he was so proud to be able to share that his son accomplished. But Dima didn't see it that way. If it wasn't his way and exactly the way he wanted or perceived it to be, he didn't want it or it was wrong. This wasn't just an issue that he had with Rob and Jen. He had problems with authority at school and rules. He couldn't handle it if another kid had got attention and took out his anger on those younger and smaller than he was. He's a coward. He showed it when he beat up on little kids, and he showed it the night that he made the choice to brutally murder Rob and Jen while they were asleep because he was too afraid to face them awake. He made a series of choices that night that changed the world for so many of us. There were multiple times that he could have stopped, but he made the choice to continue this brutality. He said he decided to kill them when he was sitting out in his car for no real reason. Even in his video statements, he said that they never hurt him. He simply didn't like them or had hatred in his heart. He could have made the choice to drive away that night, but he didn't. He went inside. He stated that he went in his room and drank and thought about it some more. He could have stopped then, but he didn't. He walked into the kitchen and picked up a knife. He still could have stopped, but he didn't. He continued into their bedroom. He stated they were asleep and it was dark. Again, he could have stopped and left, but he didn't. Instead, he brutally began stabbing my precious friend. The man who gave up everything for him, and the man that was like the older brother that I never had. In this struggle, he also stabbed Jennifer. These two people who loved each other.
Sir, I'm going to need you to stop crying.
Lost the knife, and Jennifer was able to get out and try to get help. He could have stopped then, but he chose not to. Instead, he went in the kitchen and retrieved another knife to, in his words, finish what he started. He then made sure he had taken all the life out of poor Rob. Again, he could have stopped, but he chose to go out and find Jennifer. He then forced her back in the house where he forced her to listen to his rantings. Again, he could have stopped, but instead he chose brutality, again in his own words, to finish what he started. Now he truly...
What was their religion? Does anyone know?
...gets to finish what he started. When he killed our precious friends and robbed this world of the love and light that they shared. For the rest of his life, he will be a nobody whose name means nothing. Instead, he will be assigned a number due to his own actions and be forced to suffer this alone, more than likely without any visitors. He killed the only two people in this world who would have been there for him. He has to live with that for the rest of his life. And I pray that one day he will accept that responsibility for his actions and repent and accept Christ into his heart. That's all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Pollock. Careful stepping down. Okay,
thank you.
Well, of course nobody will be there to visit him. Everybody he knows is back in Ukraine.
Thank you. The state calls
Obvious.
Talitha Pollock.
As long as we're affirmed, that's when you're about to get the trickle.
Good afternoon, Ms. Pollock. Will you tell us your full name and spell your last name?
Talitha Pollock, Pollock.
Would you like to talk to Judge Krug?
Yes, please. I tried to read something too. Probably not as good at it as my husband.
Take your time. There's no rush.
When we first met Jen and Rob, we became fast friends. We met them serving at church, and the next thing you know, we were doing everything together. Our now grown daughters were young at the time and absolutely adored them. If you're a parent, you know that it's really important who you leave your kids with. And my husband and I take that very seriously. We don't let them do sleepovers or things like that at anybody's house. But we trusted the Towers, which is like putting them like at such a high level, you know, to trust them to keep our kids. So when my husband and I would go on mission trips to South America, we would leave our girls with them and they had a blast. They loved going to Robbie and Miss Jen's house. We, without hesitation, trusted them. They were amazing. And they were also amazing with any other kids they ever came in contact with. They served in church with like the kids ministry. They would really serve anywhere anybody asked them to because they never said no, and the kids loved them. Losing Jen and Rob has been a huge loss, not just for the families and the friends, but for countless individuals and also our community. They always had the best smiles, and they never said no to helping anyone in need, but they also never wanted any recognition. They did it because they just wanted to. I only know because I saw them in action countless times when they thought nobody was looking. We'd be doing a food drive at church. They didn't just bring in a handful of cans or something from their pantry. They'd go grocery shopping at Publix and bring in multiple bags. If they found out someone had a need, whether they knew them or not, that they could meet, they would jump right in and do it. When we first met them, they were young professionals and could go on luxury vacations if they wanted to, but instead they spent both their vacation time and all their resources on mission trips to Russia and the Ukraine. They had a love for the Ukrainian people. And so I was not completely surprised when Jen told me about Dima. She beamed. I can promise you that she could not have loved you more, Dima, than if she gave birth to you herself. She loved him so much. I have children that I have given birth to, and I have children that I've adopted. You love them the same, and Jen loved him just like she gave birth to him. She loved him unconditionally. You were a nobody from nowhere, but two amazing people from somewhere came to save you. What you did by repaying them, by cowardly killing them because you don't like rules, authority, or you can't handle consequences. You decided our country is a crap hole, in your own words, and you wanted to go back to the Ukraine. I think of all the kids in orphanages that would be grateful to be brought here and given the life that you were. But not you. You were only grateful when you were getting what you wanted. I think it's ironic now that hopefully he can spend the rest of his measly existence in a prison in the land that he hates so much. The truth is that he was used to picking on and beating up anyone smaller than him. He couldn't do that with Rob. Rob was bigger, but he wasn't violent at all. Rob could maybe hold him back. So he waited till they were asleep. And like a thief in the night, you snuck in and you started your evil rampage. My daughters miss Jen and Robbie so much. I miss Jen. I miss Rob too, but I miss Jen more than words. She had the most beautiful smile, the kindest heart, a great laugh. And one thing no purely evil thief in the night could steal are all the memories that they gave us. That's all.
Thank you, Ms. Thorne.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. The state calls Lisa Huff.
Oh, her dress is busy.
Ms. Huff, before you start speaking to the judge, would you just identify yourself for the record? Tell us your full name and last name and spell your last name.
My name is Lisa Huff. My last name is Huff.
Thank you. And will you tell us how you know Jennifer and Robbie Tower, please?
Jennifer is my youngest sister. Robbie is my brother-in-law.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. You're welcome. Take me a minute. Okay. I had to type mine out just today, so I'm just going to go ahead and read it. Your Honor, thank you for allowing me to speak today. I can't begin to express the depth of loss and pain that this tragedy has brought to our family and all who knew and loved Rob and Jennifer. They were two of the most wonderful people you could ever meet. My sister Jennifer was the most loving, caring, and compassionate person. Even when she was struggling, she had a wonderful sense of humor and a strong faith and belief in God. I was blessed to have her as my youngest sister and thankful for all the good memories we shared together. Rob was also an awesome person and was always willing to lend a helping hand. He was also a fun-loving guy and had a great sense of humor. Rob and Jennifer did all they could to help Dima have a better life. No, they were not perfect, but no one is. There was absolutely nothing they did to deserve being brutally murdered and so carelessly and senselessly ripped out of the lives of my family and everyone else who knew and loved Rob and Jennifer. I will never understand or comprehend what drove Dima to commit such a heinous act against two of the people who gave him or gave so much of themselves and did all within their power to give him a better life. I guess evil simply cannot be understood. As a Christian, I know that the Bible commands me to forgive Dima. That is something I will have to fully rely on God's help and strength to do. I can't do it on my own. Dima has shown no remorse for his actions and has been said that he may not have the capacity to do so. Though some may not understand, I pray that Dima will one day feel the weight and guilt of what he has done and ask for God's forgiveness. By saying this, by no means am I stating that Dima should not be held accountable and pay for his actions. He definitely should be. His horrible actions against Rob and Jennifer demand justice. However, as Rob and Jennifer were also Christians, I believe that this is what they would want for Dima, even though he did what he did to them. Though some may not agree with me or understand, as a Christian, I believe that even in horrific tragedies such as these, that God would want something good to come out of them. It is my firm belief that Rob and Jennifer would want Dima to ask for forgiveness and join them in heaven one day. Although it seems impossible in our eyes as human beings, I pray and have faith that this can happen. Although I am still angry and sad for what has happened, it is my belief that God died for all sins, including the ones committed by Dima on that terrible day in August of 2023. Dima is my nephew, and though mine and my family's lives will never be the same, part of me still cares for him. I pray he will make the right decision and ask God for forgiveness for what he has done. Once again, I believe this is what Rob and Jennifer would have wanted for Dima. Thank you again for giving me the chance to speak, Your Honor.
Thank you, Ms. Huff.
Thank you.
Thank you. Your Honor, I'm going to read a statement from Jennifer's other sister, Lori Ely, who's here present in the courtroom, and then we have one final statement from Debbie Tower. So this is a statement from Miss Ely, and it reads as follows. Her name is Lori, last name Ely. Your Honor, thank you for allowing me to speak on behalf of my sister, Jennifer, her husband, Rob, and our grieving family. No words can fully capture the depth of loss and devastation that this crime has caused us. Jen and Rob were two of the most generous, hopeful, and loving people I have ever known. Their greatest dream was to build a family. After years of struggling to have children, they made the selfless decision to adopt. Their Christian missionary work in Ukraine inspired them to open their hearts to a child in need, and they welcomed their son Dima into their home with love. Adoption was not easy. It was emotionally, financially, and spiritually very demanding. They emptied their savings, they took loans, and they relied on the kindness of others to make their dream of parenthood possible. Despite every challenge, they remained deeply committed to giving Dima a stable, nurturing home and every opportunity to thrive. I have never seen my sister as happy as she was when Dima arrived. She was radiant, excited, fulfilled, and hopeful about motherhood. Rob shared her joy, and together they dedicated themselves to building a loving family. They celebrated milestones, faced setbacks, and consistently placed Dima's welfare and well-being above their own. Their commitment to him never wavered. Their journey, however, was extraordinarily difficult. They worked tirelessly to support Dima through anger, defiance, and destructive behavior. They sought help for him, guidance, and healing. They endured emotional and physical harm while trying to help him overcome his struggles. Even in the face of rejection and escalating violence by Dima, they continued to try because they were driven by love, faith, and the belief that every child deserves a chance. Despite their extraordinary efforts, Jen and Rob's lives were taken from them in a violent, senseless manner. The pain of losing them is indescribable. Their deaths shattered our family and left a void that can never be filled. My sister's warmth, kindness, and optimism are gone. Rob's humor, steadiness, and generosity are now only memories. We never had the chance to say goodbye. What I wouldn't give for one more conversation, one more holiday together, or just one more hug. Every day I'm confronted by reminders of what was stolen from us. I lost two of my closest friends. My faith in the goodness of people has been shaken. I now live with symptoms of PTSD. I return to work while simultaneously navigating the unimaginable task of settling my sister's estate, repeatedly explaining their deaths to banks, to creditors, mailing their death certificates, and reliving the trauma each time I read their names on those documents. I had to walk through their home and sort through the pieces of their lives. I found my sister's wedding dress. I found hundreds of photos of their lives together and two people deeply in love. Those moments broke me. The grief is relentless. I will never be the same person I was before, and no therapy or counseling will ever fully mend what has been taken. Jen and Rob's deaths touched more than just our family. Their community lost two people defined by selflessness and generosity. They opened their home and their hearts not only to Dima, but to many others. As Christians, they lived their faith through quiet acts of love and compassion. Their reward for this kind of selflessness was a brutal death at the hands of the child they devoted their lives to. I can't escape the tormenting thoughts of their final moments. How frightened and betrayed they must have felt. Our family is left to carry the weight of this tragedy every day, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. Holidays, family gatherings, and even small joys are marked by their absence. Your Honor, as you consider sentencing, I ask that you remember who Jennifer and Rob were. Decent, selfless people who dedicate themselves to giving a vulnerable child a better life. They believed in second chances and in the power of love. Their lives were taken in a horrific way, and the hole left in our hearts will never be filled. Since their deaths, I have tried to understand how Dima could have committed such a crime. I am not an expert, but I have learned about psychopathy and antisocial personality disorder. I do not know whether he was born this way or shaped by trauma. In many ways, the situation is a tragedy for everyone, including him. I believe my sister would have forgiven him, but forgiveness does not erase danger. From what I have come to understand about psychopathy, it cannot be cured. If Dima were ever released, I firmly believe that he is a risk to society and that he would harm or kill again. While compassion and faith may allow us to pity his past, society also has a responsibility to protect others from someone like him who demonstrates violence, lacks empathy, and cannot regulate dangerous impulses. For the safety of the public and in honor of Jennifer and Rob, I ask that you impose a sentence that ensures no other family will face the pain we endure every day. Thank you, Your Honor.
Where is Laura? Well said.
Finally, the state would call Debbie Tower, please.
Here, for support, raise your right hand.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give the truth, the truth, and nothing but the truth?
Hello, Ms. Tower. Can you tell us your full name and spell your last name?
Debbie Tower. Tower.
Would you like some water?
No, I'm okay. I'm okay. Robbie was my son. Robbie was my son. And Jennifer was my daughter-in-law. And I can't. What he took away from us is beyond what you can imagine, because Robbie was my friend, my son. He thought he was the father of my other two kids. He helped raise them. And then when my daughter died, we were left with two little boys, and he helped raise them. He acted like their father, and he did everything with them, and he took them places, and he took care of them. And he could not have ever been a better father than he was to my boys, his nieces, his nephews, and him. He spoiled him. He did everything that he could. And Jennifer, the two of them did everything to make him happy. And every time something would happen, they would fix it. And I just want people to know that he wasn't neither one of them were a bad parent. They were excellent. They couldn't do enough to take care of children. Now my boys want to know, where's Robbie? And I can't explain it to them because they don't understand heaven. And I'm sorry, this is so hard. I just wanted people to know that they both were good. They were good to him. He can't say things that aren't true. And he really was good to everybody. And I miss him so much. I'm so sorry. I just want people to know how good.
Well, I heard he wasn't very nice to Dima. And as a matter of fact, I also read that he told Dima on a daily basis that he didn't want him. Shit, that'd make me feel terrible.
You didn't just murder Robbie and Jen, you murdered all of us. That's all I can say. I can't say anymore.
I don't think they really knew what was going on in that house. Boy, she's lost a son and a daughter.
Statements, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay. Can we put up, do we have a second podium in here? We don't need to plug it in, but can you bring one in? Mr. Gilman, do you have anybody that wishes to speak from the defense?
The defendant would like to address the court.
Okay.
Oh, no.
Does he want to take the witness stand and speak?
I don't mind.
Okay, wait, I'm sorry?
I don't mind taking the witness stand.
Okay. Let me just make sure you understand. I'm not going to allow any disparaging comments related to Robbie and Jennifer Tower. Do you understand that?
What do you mean?
I don't want a single negative comment or disparaging, meaningful, harmful contact.
There will be no such words.
Okay.
There'll be only the story.
Mr. Gilman, have you spoken to him at all about what he wishes to say?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Can you please explain to him what I just ordered? I will not permit Robbie and Jennifer to be disparaged in any way in this courtroom.
I understood what you said. I will only tell our story. I will be rational. I will be making sense. I'm not going to be speaking meaningless words that have no reason to say.
This is an opportunity for you to show remorse, if you have any, to apologize if you wish to and it's sincere, and to express your gratitude for the opportunity that Robbie and Jennifer gave you if you wish, to apologize to the family and the community for which you tore apart and destroyed. This is that opportunity. Do you understand that, Mr. Tower?
I understand.
And the opportunity is limited to that. Do you understand?
I understand.
Okay. All right, let's have the defendant take the witness stand, please.
I have a feeling this ain't gonna end well.
You want to assist?
I'll do anything. Can you please state your name for the court?
Dima Tower.
And given what the court has talked to you about, what is it that you want Judge Crew to know prior to imposing a sentence?
What I have to say is our feelings block out our intellect, so I must ignore the irrational testimonies I heard about the life that I had with adopted parents of mine, and prior to that, I must only speak the truth. However, I've been told that I have limited time, and there's much to say that I expect these adults to understand me talking to them as adults to adults.
The judge didn't give him limited time. He said a limited scope on what you can say. Poor kid.
I had 2 years and 2 months of dwelling on this. The conclusion I have come to is
Oh, yeah, hold on.
not only that everything evolves around God, that we must understand that we live in an unmanly world. And what this means is...
Mr. Tower, I'm not concerned about what world you believe in. Do you wish to offer an apology and remorse to the victims?
Yes, I'm getting to that, yes.
Cut right to it. I don't want to hear what world you think you live in.
Well, I'm gonna cut right to it.
Thank you.
The remorse that I have for my adopted parents is, it might be unshown. That doesn't mean it's not felt. Because when I committed these acts of crime, I lost my mind, and somebody might think that I knew what I was doing. I did not know what I was doing. It was.
Do you wish to offer an apology?
I am on offer an apology. I'm explaining an apology. I'm explaining an apology. I'm in the middle of an apology.
He just wants
Apology is that the truth is that there are a lot of fatherless children out there, and my apology in this is that nobody want to be held accountable for their actions, and I'm being held accountable for the actions of grown men. So my apology is that I have to be responsible for what Oscar did to his children and what Phil did to his children. And how can I apologize for the mistreatment that Oscar, as a stepfather...
All right, I'm going to have the defendant removed from the stand. He's choosing not to give an apology. I'm sorry to the family in the courtroom. I wanted to give an opportunity for you to have to hear from the defendant, to perhaps hear an apology and remorse. I think that is not forthcoming, as we all saw. Mr. Gilman, anything else from the defense?
Nothing.
Okay, let's hear from the state what you're seeking and want.
Thank you, Your Honor. As to count one, the state is seeking the statutorily mandated sentence of life in prison without the possibility of parole. As to count two, the state is seeking a consecutive mandatorily, well, that's not mandatory, consecutive life without parole sentence for the death of Jennifer Tower, as well as the death of Robbie Tower. And as to count three, 5 years in the Department of Corrections, concurrent with count two. Thank you.
Mr. Gilman, anything you wanted to add?
No, Your Honor, I don't disagree with the state that the sentence is statutorily mandated. I would just ask that the court can impose the sentences on counts 1 and 2 concurrent rather than consecutive.
All right, thank you, counselors. You can be seated. All right, to the family, I know law enforcement is here who worked hard on this case. I want to thank you for your courtesy throughout the trial. I know it can be very hard to sit in a long trial where you have loved ones that were viciously and brutally murdered, as your loved ones were in this case. You respected the process. You respected the role of the judge, the jury, the witnesses, and you allowed for the trial to go through properly, efficiently, lawfully, which is our roles in the judicial system. You know, we serve a function and we need to make sure that happens. And so I appreciate your role in that. As the judge, I don't know the folks that are murdered or injured in cases. You realize I come into the story much later at a trial often or at a sentencing hearing. I can tell you that the role of a judge is very difficult sentencing most days. I anguish over sentencing decisions I have to make. I do it on a daily basis, 5 days a week, handling all types of different cases and have to make decisions as to whether someone goes to jail or not, or goes to prison or not, and if so, how long. And I think you can imagine in many cases, most cases, that can be difficult. You see the human compassion in people, and you see mistakes can be made. Today, obviously, is not one of those days for me. Sentencing today is very easy, and I think it was Miss Lisa Huff, or actually, no, it might have been Laura Ely, I'm not sure, maybe both, who had great insight in their statements, that there's a role that the court has, and that is to punish and also to provide for the safety of the community. What I enjoyed this afternoon was, even though it was brief, learning about the terrific lives that this, I'm going to call them Robbie and Jennifer, lived. They seemed, and many of you used these words, that they were selfless. Some of you said that they gave the shirt off their back for others. They ministered to children and others, going as far as Ukraine and Russia to help those in need in South America. They were babysitters. They were a happy husband and wife. They were children to the parents we heard from, brothers, aunts, uncles. They just really seemed like terrific people. And it is a shame that in this great country that we live in, that we lost two shining stars. I hope that, and one of you mentioned this, that they live on in your hearts, in your memory, and I hope you realize that. I know you do. The grief, the anger will continue for time, but I hope you cherish, and I know you will, those memories, and lean on each other and the love and support of your family, and celebrate what seems to be amazing lives of two great people, and they can be beacons for how you teach your children and how you continue to move on. Mr. Tower, I don't know what else to say. You seem to be an evil spirit, an evil person.
Evil spirit because you're talking foolish.
Who doesn't seem to have any...
I'm full of remorse. I'm not showing it because...
I will at this time, Mr. Tower, sentence you as to count 1. This is for first-degree murder of, count 1 was Robbie, is that right?
Yes.
Of Robbie.
Proper name is Robbie.
Of Robbie Tower. I will sentence you to life in prison. You will serve the rest of your life in prison without the possibility of parole. Count 2, and often I do run them concurrent. I know that the defense requested that. We have a unique and clearly a special life in Jennifer Tower as well. I spoke about that earlier. I'm going to adjudicate you guilty of count 2, first-degree premeditated murder on Jennifer Tower. I will run this sentence consecutive to count 1. I will sentence you, Mr. Tower, to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Count 3, the fleeing or attempting to elude law enforcement with lights and sirens. I'll adjudicate you guilty. Let's see, this is what degree felony? State third. Sentence you to the maximum of 5 years in prison to run concurrent with count 2. I will order that you have no contact whatsoever with Robbie and Jennifer's family, aunts, uncles, cousins, nephews, parents, siblings. I will order restitution and reserve as to the amount. I'll order as a civil judgment against you court costs, a prosecutor fee and public defender fee of $100 to each. Are there any other statutory terms that I'm leaving out, State?
No, Your Honor, but I do have a score sheet for count 3, which is the only count that requires a score sheet.
Ma'am,
Mr. Gilman, anything I left out?
No, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Tower, you have 30 days to appeal the judgment and sentence of this court. If you cannot afford an attorney for that appeal, one will be appointed to represent you.
What about the truth?
Good luck to everyone.
You know, I'm going to be honest. There's something that they don't want him to say. There's more to this, and he is clearly upset about it. I'm wondering if these two individuals didn't bring him over here and for other reasons. I don't know. I don't want to talk ill about the dead and, you know, because of what happened to them. But I truly believe that they're trying to shut him up about something. I think that these two are not the saints that they're being made out to be, even though they're gone, they're no longer here. And I'm sorry, but I think something was going on in that house, and this was his way of being able to. No, I mean, look at him. Nobody will let him talk. Nobody. He's tried how many times, and they keep shutting him up. It's sad. Very sad that he can't tell his truth, that he can't tell his side. I don't know. Yes, what he did was wrong. Yes, we know that. But what's the problem here? Oh, there has to be. Something is missing, and I'm thinking it was the home where he was living with these two. Were they locking him up? I mean, were they starving him? What? I'm hoping that it'll come out. I really do. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know either. But something is missing, and they just keep shutting him down every time he tries to say it. And I thought he was able to say whatever he wanted. Because really, that's his last right. I mean, after he leaves there, he has no more rights. He belongs to the state of Florida now. Like he said, the truth. What about the truth? Or maybe that's just his way of thinking he can get out of this. I don't know. But I think I'm going to end it today. I got some things to work on. I hope so too. But you know, it was such a horrific crime. Nobody wants to hear his side. If I was a journalist, man, I'd go and interview him. Find out. There is more to the story. There has to be. Something happened in that house, and not just not the moment that he did this. I'm thinking something happened leading up to this. Like something was going on in that house. I don't know his address. Does anyone know his address? Find his address, Cindy. Maybe he doesn't know how to write English. Yeah, I don't know. Well, I'm going to end it, y'all. Thank you for being here with me. And yes, I'm going to go take a little nap too. I've been busy all day. I got to go give my burn some time to relax. But anyways, y'all have a good night. Stay safe out there. Sandy, you get some rest. And I will see you all tomorrow. I will decide later tonight what time I will start the live. It's just because I have therapy tomorrow too. So, but I am going to do the Logan case. All right. Thanks for being here, everybody. Have a good night. Bye-bye.